What is up, everyone? What is up? Happy Sunday to everybody out there. Although tomorrow is Monday, and much like Garfield, we don't like Mondays around here. Boo, Mondays! Boo! Ooh, that was weird. I hit a button, and then my TikTok unmuted myself on the stream PC, and I heard myself, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? So, what's everyone up to? I was a little bit later than I normally like to be on Sundays because, well, it was my grandmother's birthday, so that was an important thing. So, yeah, she's getting up there. She's had a little bit of a mini stroke a few months ago, but, I mean, she's still walking around. She's still, for the most part, got her wits about her at 86. So, I mean, like, her memory's, you know, not 100%, but, like, no dementia, no Alzheimer's, you know, just, you know, typical, like, she forgets things occasionally, but, yeah. So, yeah, had to go over, spend some time with her, get her some flowers. We got her a little cheesecake, because she likes cheesecake. So, not the typical birthday cake thing. What's up, Hans? How's it going, Don? Jay, live and learn, how's it going? But yeah, so that, you know, was what I had to do on today. So I went straight from getting groceries to going to my grandmother. So I haven't really done anything I wanted to do content-wise today. But you know how it is. So I will try to get some stuff recorded this week. Any Linux gaming tonight? I don't know about tonight, but this week is going to be kind of weird too. I still want to, you know, catch up on some of the content that y'all have been sending me. Tuesday, I'm probably going to maybe lean into the gaming, because Tuesday, so I won't have a stream this Wednesday because it's the first night of Passover, so I got stuff to do with the family, obviously. So, I won't be streaming Wednesday, this week, and then, we'll see how I feel, but I may stream on, like, Friday or Saturday, but Tuesday is definitely, what I'm planning for to make up for, at least this week, for missing Wednesday's stream. What's up, Vampire? But yeah, I'm already gonna be taking off work on Thursday, because that'll be the official first day of Passover. Because for those of you that are unaware, Jewish holidays start in the evening, so days start in the evening. It's kind of, we go by the lunar calendar, that whole thing. How long before you became a senior engineer? It's been 15 years of IT and cybersecurity. Not saying that, you know, it'll take everyone 15 years, just that it took me that long to get officially to my title, because you have to remember, the first, like, 5 or 6 years of my career, I was MSP. Hold up, let me think about this. No, like, the first 8 or so, I was MSP, actually. I had to think about that for a second. MSP, retail IT. I only officially became a cybersecurity engineer in title 3 years ago. But you'll still need more time than that to become a senior. Because remember, I've had IT experience and all of that on top of it. I took the longer path around things. I need to work back on getting my ass motivated again to finish up my WGU stuff. I mean, I have my little thing here for everything I need to do. Like, I haven't updated the list over here, but let's see. There's like a little oil stain here or whatever. But basically, everything... Let me see, I've done... There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 23 courses to get my bachelor's degree. And so far, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've done 11 courses out of the 23 that I have. And that's including, like, the capstone and everything that you have to do there. So I'm kind of more or less halfway through my bachelor's, and I'm only one semester in, and I still have, like, 3 months to go. Good, I just saw a fursuit made out of crochet. What? Set prisms. See the CrowdStrike bottle. Are you the engineer who pushed production on Friday? No, I do not work at CrowdStrike. I happen to use CrowdStrike. I am the CrowdStrike SME where I work. I do not work for CrowdStrike. Although I did know somebody who was working at CrowdStrike during that whole incident that happened. You know, when everybody was CrowdStruck, was this like 2 years now, I guess? And it was funny as shit, for me at least, because I'm an asshole. And, well, that week was also the week they had decided they were going to go sober and stop, you know, and fight their whole alcoholism thing. And me being me, the asshole that I am, I hit them up and I'm like, so, bad week to quit drinking, huh? Am I an asshole? Yes. Was it wrong? Yes. But did it feel so right? Also, yes. Could you do Sundays as a gaming night, or would that be unfeasible? Could you do one a week for gaming nights? Yeah, I could do that. We can put that as a regular thing in the roster. I've been wanting to do regular gaming sessions anyway, but, there's a few... What the hell did you just put in there, Vampire? They drank 5 glasses of red after that. But yeah, we can totally make Sunday a distinct gaming night starting... maybe next weekend. There's been some games I've been wanting to replay or get, you know, to playing again, or replay or start playing. Like there was an Elder Scrolls, like, not, well, I do want to replay Elder Scrolls 3 and 4, that's for sure. But there's, like, another game that I heard about that was kind of like the spiritual successor to what Elder Scrolls 3 was. Because I still tell you all, to this day, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind is still one of the top all-time games. Like, I know everybody's, like, overhyping, you know, Skyrim and everything. And don't get me wrong, Skyrim's a great game, but I feel like they neutered a lot of the whole things that made Morrowind amazing. The lore, I felt, was a lot more in depth with Morrowind, that it feels like Oblivion and Skyrim basically were riding on the coattails of the lore that was set out in Elder Scrolls 1, 2, and especially 3. 3 was the first 3D one. And Morrowind had a very impactful skill progression system, as well as there were more repercussions for different things. Like, you know how, like, in Oblivion and Skyrim, you can never kill certain NPCs that will just, like, recover? Yeah, in Morrowind, you could actually F up your entire main quest and accidentally kill your important, you know, characters and stuff like that. I would really like to see, although I know it's not going to happen because Bethesda, after Starfield, I kind of just have lost a lot of hope that they're going to, you know, ever rekindle that spark, because Starfield was just But I would love to see Elder Scrolls 6 relive the amazing things that happened in 3 with some of the advancements we had in 4 and 5. So, if you can't tell, I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan. I still have my Elder Scrolls strategy guide from when I played Elder Scrolls back in like early 2000s. Like when you see me play Elder Scrolls, you literally see me reference it because that is a game that does not like give you easy hand holding. Like, you do need guidance on it. Like, there are actual, like, riddles in there that will F with you. And I could not figure out parts of quests until I looked at the guide. And, like, there was no real concept of fast traveling short of silt striders. And the silt striders, you had to pay gold to go between places. But my god. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do Morrowind. I'll have to at least get some mods inside of it with Open Morrowind, which is a open source engine that improved Morrowind. Some of the mods to make it more lively and improve a few aspects of it, but keep a lot of the experience as vanilla as possible. But yeah, that's definitely gonna have to be something. What's in your hand? Is that a camera tweezer? No. It's another microphone I was playing with. Because with my Linux box, the Rodecaster Pro 2 mixer I have is supposed to have the microphone go to both machines. But I was playing with, there's a bug when you use Rodecaster with Linux that it comes out a lot quieter on Linux, so I was wondering if I'm going to need a whole separate mic just for when I'm doing game audio to chat with people. But I think I figured a workaround with it, but I think it's a decent enough microphone. I'm going to keep it just so, like, let's say I ever do, like, travel and need a setup mic, I can at least take this with me. It's a cheap little $50 mic that's not, you know, like, amazing, but, you know, plug in USB, you can control the gain down here. Got a little pop screen, so I think that'll be nice, and I like the fact that it's got a little shock boom built in over here. Yeah, so, yeah, it was just a little microphone I was playing with, but basically the tweak that I had to do, I think I've pushed it to my Pipewire Sync audio repo. You have to basically boost the audio in the Rodecaster to Linux by like 25%. And I allowed it to be adjustable. So basically you have to overdrive it, but not really, because it's still coming out like really soft. What's a good brand of UPS, Chief? I pretty much almost religiously use APC. Pretty much every single UPS in this house is APC. The two that run these two computers here are APCs. I gotta take the APC 1500 that was in the ham shack, put that over here, while I get the ham shack re-geared to a lithium iron phosphate. That's gonna be a whole different setup, because that's a ham radio shack that it's gonna be ham radio centric, and then I'm going to attach an inverter to it, so that way the ham computer or whatever devices can then get a backup. I'm hoping to shoot for like at least 50 amp hours for that, but that's a whole other situation. But I have an APC in the network rack. There's another two UPSs underneath the network rack for the AI servers that I run. So yeah, those are pretty much the brand that I almost religiously use for all of my UPSs. Second to that, I probably would use, it's a toss-up between either CyberPower or Triplite, but I lean more towards Triplite based on the experiences I've had in the MSP world. But APC is still my go-to. So it'll be like APC, Triplite, then CyberPower. But not like saying like CyberPower is like worse than Triplite. It's kind of like one of those like kind of just where they're at. But Triplite, I still like, I don't know. I just have this, like, gut feeling that I lean towards them if I'm given the choice between the two, but that's so rare because I generally use APC. Eaton is good too. Yeah, but you don't really find a lot of Eaton stuff outside of super high-end components, from what I've seen. I'm not knocking Eaton. I'm just saying a lot of times, in at least the levels that I'm at, I don't really come across Eaton. Have you heard the news that RAM price have dropped after Google announcement? I have not. Could you share a link to whatever is going on there, or I can look it up in a second? So, should I change the last character of my IP? I don't know what the context is behind that or why. What are your AI servers? Oh, I have two different boxes. One is my general purpose AI server that I'm using to... It's an LLM. But it's I'm working on replacing ChatGPT and potentially even a lot of my Claude usage with running my own server to move a lot of my queries locally. So, I'm basically running a NVIDIA 5060 Ti alongside an NVIDIA 3050 on one box, so that way it can work on Ollama, which there's two Ollama instances running on those separate GPUs with different models, and then Open Web UI is the web interface to connect to that, and I have a Zero Trust network access set up over TwinGate, which I'll be making a whole other YouTube video talking about that later on, because that's its own discussion going over a lot of concepts around Zero Trust that we will get into. But anyway, I can access it from my phone. So let's say,
first, it comes to work.
Let's say, here, I'll turn off the Wi-Fi so you can see it here. But if I open, I have an app here, Open Web UI. So it's a progressive web app. All it's doing is it's going to connect into my LLM server. Oh wait, hold on. I got to turn on TwinGate, which is sort of my thing. Give me a second. Okay, there we go. Signed in. All right. And then I got to log into my little server over here. But it's just kind of like a ChatGPT-like interface, so if you're used to that, a lot of it will carry over. But right now, I'm in the middle of training data on it. There we go. So we're on my cell network, and as you can see, yeah. So, yeah. There's a damn app. It's my own little YouTube, not YouTube. It's my own little progressive web app. All it is the Safari browser, and you share it out to your desktop and make a progressive app. So you do a desktop shortcut that way. So, yeah. And to the person that was saying that it's lagging, not sure that that was my end. I think it was your end. So Dark Sword iOS devices on iOS 18 are being hacked. Do you know how this exploit works? I don't know how this exploit works, but isn't iOS 18 pretty old? Is it even still supported? Because I know they were pushing everyone to iOS 26. Oh, okay, I thought Open Web UI had somehow an app. No, you use a progressive web app. You don't need to make an app. A lot of apps are really just what do you call it? Shortcuts. And yeah. Hold on 1 second. Web apps take less resources. Yeah, well, it's just a web browser, so. One second. When you're using LLMs, do you give it access to web scrape other sites? You can. So on OpenWebUI, you just hit the hashtag and then website, and you can have it scrape websites that way. So eventually I'm going to be setting it up to do research and agentically work through a bunch of different stuff. So that will be happening. I had used the OpenWebUI one I didn't like, so I made my own. Nice. But yeah, you can totally run your own LLM and everything like that. Eventually I'll have some NVIDIA DGX Sparks, and then what you can do is point it out. You can point from OpenWebUI to the rest of the stuff there. How you doing? Quick question. I want to start a NAS media server. Any tips? Well, it depends on what you're trying to do with it. That's the bigger question. It just calls an MCP, which runs a background job on my VPS. Okay. Yeah, I need to set up more MCPs and stuff like that. I just want to know if AMD is a good graphics card for budget card for graphics and performance. It's an alright GPU for a lot of things, unless you're, you know, trying to do anything specific. If you're trying to do gaming, yeah, it's really fine. If you're trying to do like AI work, it can be kind of limited because a lot of things are geared towards CUDA more, but you can do ROCm more and more, which is why I basically have NVIDIA on all of my machines, even though I'm not their biggest fan. It's one of those needs, unfortunately. You're trying to get away from subscriptions? Well, then you can look at like Jellyfin, and as far as NAS goes, it depends on if you're wanting to buy a system that has everything already built for you to do it, like Synology, or I wouldn't really recommend Synology these days because they're getting kind of douchey with their drive approaches, but QNAP, things like that, or you can build your own with TrueNAS, which when I build my next NAS out, I'm probably looking at TrueNAS myself. They make some units. It cost me a few $1,000s, probably upfront initial investment, but it's a system I could probably grow into, rather than, you know, max out at once like I did with my system right now, where I'm already on 4 disks, and I'm like, how am I going to have to adjust this? And the next server I'm going to have to transfer all the data to, and then I'm looking at, they had an appliance that had 12 bays, and I could start out with 4. So I was thinking, like, get 4, maybe 16 terabyte drives once they get a little bit more sane in pricing. Can't believe conventional hard drives have gotten insane, too. Move on from my current 8 terabyte usable drive to something that lets me have a little bit more room, or at least, 10 terabyte disks, and then if I need more disks, I can slap another one in, and then it will distribute across those disks for all the parity data and everything. The other thing when it comes to NAS, I always recommend getting at least a 2-bay NAS with RAID 1. What RAID 1 is it's mirroring. So the idea is that if one disk fails, the other one can continue working while you go out and buy a replacement disk, and then it will copy all the data over. Now, RAID is not a backup. Let's keep that in mind. RAID is a continuity solution, so do not count your RAID array as a backup. You should still, with your NAS, consider where you're going to back up the NAS data to. So generally what I recommend people is look at like S3. S3, you can easily do block storage and stuff like that with it. Wasabi is really inexpensive for S3. It runs me about $6 per terabyte per month. You can use AWS, you can use Backblaze, you can use many others. Ideally, what I would recommend is maybe have 2 different sources to back up things. But yeah. And get a larger drive to do backups. Well, I don't know if I'd really back up the NAS drive locally unless you back it up to another NAS. I'm running RAID 5. Is that too aggressive? No, I wouldn't say that's too aggressive. As long as you have disks spanning. I have mine on a RAID 10, and looking back at it, I wish I did RAID 5 because I feel like I'm eating up a lot of space that could have been used. So with 4 terabyte drives, I have reduced it to 8 terabytes usable. So with a RAID 5, I could have potentially moved it to 12. Now that could have been RAID 5 with a hot spare, or you can have RAID 5 distributed across 4 disks, as I recall. There's even like RAID 6. There's different ways to, slice this situation up. So yeah. Just plug a 2 terabyte USB into the back of the router. No prisms. No. Bad dog. No! No! Bad dog! Bad dog! Try not to bend my 2600 magazine too much. Which is another thing. If many of you are not familiar with this, I do recommend getting a subscription to the 2600 magazine. It's a quarterly subscription. It's one of the OG hacker magazines. I'm not affiliated, nor am I sponsored by them. It is just legitimate knowledge to drop on you. You can actually get these at Micro Center in the checkout aisle where they have all the magazines usually, so you can probably pick one up locally. But yeah, quarterly magazine. I regularly subscribe to it. They have like some really good stuff in there. Like, what is this? This is the... Which issue is this? I think this was... Hold on. Which one was this? This was winter 2025-2026, so this is one of the most recent ones. But yeah, they had like Snap Safe security on Android from forensic searches. Trust me, I'm lying. Psychology and social engineering. Should IceBlock be open source? Without further ado, ROS2, using Linux and a VM as your daily driver, decentralized authentication across the web, wpusers.sh, countering disinformation with a simple bash script, mobile hotspots, the Trojan sentence, Trauma explains why I'm a hacker. That's a funny title. Hope 16, hack the violin. This time there's AI. Neuron intelligence and cybersecurity software part 1. Hacking at Leaves, a doc, but even more so. Why can't we have nice things? Reclaiming the shadows, why data privacy is the battle of our time. Ungovernable. Artificial intelligence, the imitation of humanity. You are being hacked. Big tech, state socialism, and economic democracy. Yeah, so there's some good things. That's just this table of contents there. What did you learn from it? A lot of things over the years. So it's basically like you have like people like contributing like little questions and notes and all that people actually have submitted into 2600. You have and sometimes you can actually get like, here we go. They'll actually give you like little snippets of code of how they actually did their things. So you can follow along with some of their work. Yeah, like this one was the countering disinformation with a simple bash script. Back in the day, I learned about phone phreaking from this with my dad. Wait, what is this? Oh, are you kidding me? One Stella V Slam is compiled in the Doom bag. Oh, of course, they got Doom running on this. But yeah, there's a lot that you can gain from that, even though it's old. Synology rolled back the HDD decision, but did not roll back the limitation of using only their own NVMEs. Oh, I don't care that they rolled back the decision. That is a decision that should have still never been done in the first place by Synology. Synology should have understood, hey, people are going to buy NASs. We should maybe let them pick their own disks. Whether it be NVMEs or SATA disks, or in some cases they may have SAS, probably, on some of the higher end stuff. Having us locked in to have to buy their rebadged, relabeled discs is absolute BS. Okay, so what? There's a performance hit on some discs. Guess what? That's on the owner for not doing their research. It's their NAS. They should be able to use whatever disc they want. Now, it just so happens a lot of us that operate NASs know that we should probably go get specific NAS drives, like the Seagate Iron Wolf, the WD Reds, like I have WD Reds. There's, other drives over the years, like there's been Hitachis and Toshibas and all that, but I think it's basically Seagate and Western Digital these days. But anyway, the point being, that is a bad move Synology should have never made, and I really don't like this approach that a lot of tech companies are having towards shitifying themselves. Like, you just ruined your trust by making that move and letting us know you don't give a shit about your customers, you care about your bottom line, and don't realize caring about your customers is what actually is the most beneficial thing to your bottom line. Because people can and will take their business and go elsewhere. We saw it heavily. Like, for example, there's been, quite a few softwares out there where businesses have completely moved over. There was the Terraform situation when they changed their licensing and many companies switched over to OpenTofu. I know there's a little bit more nuance with that kind of situation. There's been situations where companies have just not been happy with how a company, like the VMware situation. VMware. Broadcom bought the VMware, thought, companies are just going to suck it up, and, we're just going to, stick it right to them, F them on their licensing even harder, and a lot of companies are like, yeah, no, we're going to give you like 1 or 2 more years, but we're going to migrate to Proxmox over here. Do you know how many businesses I have colleagues and friends that have told me they've migrated from VMware specifically to Proxmox because of the licensing bullshit? Broadcom screwed their customer base. Like, Broadcom is one of those few companies where if I have the potential to, I will try to avoid using them. But of course, that can't happen everywhere because they do have their claws in a lot of networking technologies and stuff, but I digress. Like somebody asked, do I still use Cubes OS? Yes, I do. Just not nearly as much as I, used to use, because I have to do a lot of stuff that Cubes OS is not good at, like directly interfacing with your GPU and stuff like that. I also don't go into infected networks nearly as much as I once did, like when I was in an MSP, where I would regularly go into clients that they may have ransomware, worms, whatever going on, and we have to sanitize the entire network, so I needed a secure environment. Now I'm usually going into, workplaces where they give me a laptop, and I'm working on that work laptop, and then for my own stuff, I'm using Cubes more as a research thing. I use it more when I travel to cybersecurity conferences than anything, which I am in the middle of scheduling a few out. We'll know more about my schedule over time. Probably going to be at DEF CON. Probably going to be at B-Sides Las Vegas. I'm probably going to be at GurCon as well again this year. But we'll figure that out. Why? What did Broadcom do? They exist. That's their problem. No, Broadcom is just a really effed company in terms of how they've treated a lot of their employees. They acquire a lot of things and then F them over. Like, VMware used to be a really, really solid company, a really great company. Like, it was one of those situations of ESXi may not have been my cup of tea, but I would be okay with a lot of people using it in their home labs. Then Broadcom bought VMware, effed their entire licensing, upped the pricing on all of it, and then basically, from my understanding, just annihilated the home lab licensing capabilities that people even at the home labs were moving to Proxmox, and the people that were in businesses were moving to Proxmox. It's like, home labbers moving from one software to another, okay, that's no big deal. But when you're getting entire businesses to move from one entire business line of software to another, that tells you you done fucked up. You done fucked up. So, yeah. What you watching from YouTube? We shall see. I gotta see what the team has put in store for me. So let me see. On that note, let us see where I left off last night for our content, because we had quite a few videos left over for us to go through. But yeah, I think Sundays we'll start doing gaming on Linux nights, at least make that a consistent thing, because I've been meaning to do that, but yeah, I've been more all in on the doing all this stuff. Hold on, where were we? Oh yeah, so we were at the okay, so we just did the stop using try hack me video last stream, so now we have this. So one of the members in my Discord shared this with me. Jest shared this with me. They apparently, let's catch up on what this is. Arch install. Okay, so this is Arch Linux, the Arch installer. User add required birth date field to non-user creation. Non-root user creation. Oh, really? This guy actually... Wow. Add a required birth date prompt, year, month, date, to the user creation flow. Store it as a systemd user DB JSON drop-in at on the target system. Motivation. Recent age verification laws, Colorado, Brazil, require platforms to verify age. Collecting birth date at install time ensures Arch Linux is compliant with these regulations. I kind of expected everyone that saw this was going to downvote it. I would have downvoted it. Is it still locked? Hold on. Okay, they locked it. Otherwise, I would have added my thumbs down. Can I not give my thumbs down? Here, I can't give a thumbs down, so we're just gonna do it right here. Thumbs down on this request. Can't believe somebody actually did this. This isn't how user DB drop-ins work. Okay, this is going back in. Why would you waste time with this yet? It's not April 1st yet. There's always somebody in chat, and I like that somebody. Prompting after installation when an app requests an age doesn't comply with the regulation. The key one is... Okay, so... Why is this guy, like... I bet he loves the taste of boot. Like, let me put it this way. I can respect System 76 having to implement this because they're bent over a barrel as a hardware manufacturer that makes an operating system. I can respect why they have to do it. They even said themselves they don't want to do it. But they're kind of like, their hands are tied. The fees are way too high, and they're in Colorado. But the fact that an Arch user came in and actually made a PR to do this shit. Like, bro. This is why I say Arch users should go and touch grass. Let's get ahead of the curve and add personal identification with face scans too, right? I like this guy. It's not clear that the law applies at all in this case. Some people want a minimal install with no desktop. Fair enough. As the law is currently written, a birth date just needs to be provided. No validation is required. This is pretty non-intrusive, all things considered. Let's wait until this is addressed by Arch Linux leadership. Also, Arch install should conform to the Arch wiki, so it should follow the users and groups article. Fair enough. Creating users is not mandatory. One can only set a root password. Arch installs a simple wrapper for providing convenience to installing Arch Linux. Knows the user is required to use it and simply... Wow, so this guy is really arguing. Okay, so this guy is an Arch Linux package manager, creator of Arch install. Okay, so they weighed in. I appreciate the work ahead of time, and the law is the law. Svarkinen raised this PR within staff channels, and the feedback is that, well, we'll wait until there's an overall stance from Arch Linux on this before merging this, and preferably involve legal representatives on this matter on what the best way forward is for us. This makes sense over here. But from a personal reflection, it's clear that there's a disconnect between lawmakers' intent and how things like this will be implemented in reality, and once a law is in place, we might have to implement inconvenient things. So I'll leave this open for now, but I'll also lock the conversation because experience from the mailing lists on this topic has told us this thread will get out of hand quickly. Yeah, you won't let me thumbs down with my emoji! Dylan M. Taylor, the stance does not mean that we won't merge this, and despite locking this thread, I think you, me, and other contributors and maintainers can still comment, which is fine and good. So they're not, like... Not necessarily... Yeah, and then it got locked as too heated, and then reopened it, marked this pool as a request draft, and then changed it. Okay. But yeah, there's always that guy. Hooray. Alright. Has anyone not learned on past how easy it is for kids to go in and make whatever age they want? Shh! We don't need to let them know about the Pain Olympics, or Blue Waffles, or Two Girls, One Cup, or the fact that we, as young children, got around that we weren't allowed to go into the back section of American Family Video because Blockbusters didn't have those fun videos, or the nudie magazines by either A, sneaking in and stealing the ones from your father's nightstand, or B, learning that there were plenty of things on the internet that you could just look up and pretend that you were 18 years old for. We don't need them to know that. Should make a PR to modify the EULA to say you can't use it if you live in communism. Then I'll push a PR that you can only make a root account unless you have a doctorate in comp sci. Alright, moving on. Vampire shared this little short here. Okay, what is this? How to defeat a robot. Okay, let's make sure that your audio is working. I made sure it worked right before I started the stream, so we shall check that again.
I present the first robots with self-thoughts. Roomba, I command you to stop. Must replace. These things are flawed. That was your motherboard is loose. That's why you need so much RAM. I do not waver to emotional attacks. Yeah? Let's see. Grandpa, choose. You or him. Come on.
What the hell?
See my logic. Those are called feelings. You activated them when you became self-aware. Now self-destruct or say goodbye. Wait, you can cry? No, just an oil leak. Now, put him down.
What the hell?
Now, what are you gonna do with your
Did he just have a whole captcha block?
And I cut it. Domain expansion. What is it?
Vampire, I have to question your shorts feed because, like, were you, like, doom scrolling while you were just doing some shrooms or something, bud?
Sloth domain. In here you cannot tell what's real and what's AI. How? That was nothing compared to my social media feed. I've been trained for years against my will. Okay, then try stopping me from launching every single missile. What did you do? I just pulled out his butt plug. Present the first.
I just pulled out his butt plug. Alright. Next video, let's see, what is this? HBX shared this.
This is the rack that powers a big Crestron Simple system in one of our clients' homes. This system was installed about 15 or 16 years ago. Still works, but the client has Control 4 in another home, really likes it, and requested, hey, can you switch me over to Control 4? And as you can see, there is a lot of stuff in that rack. He's got distributed video, got a lot of power management. You're gonna see a lot of this stuff end up getting replaced. We'll probably use AV Pro Edge for video distribution, use Triad probably for audio distribution since we're gonna do Control 4, power management, all that stuff will be swapped.
Hold up. That dude have Laserdisc in there?
Crestron left in here, and then just expand on the Triad probably for audio.
I'm trying to figure out, is that Laserdisc, or is that like just a multiple CD like changer thing? It's an Onkyo, so that might be just an audio with multi-CD changer. It's kind of hard to tell.
We're gonna do Control 4, power management.
Yeah, compact disc. Okay, that's just a disc player.
All that stuff will be swapped to Unify if there's anything Crestron left in here. And then just expand on the existing Unify camera system, Unify network, all that. Crestron's a good system, but sometimes it could just be a little more complicated than needed. So we're just kind of simplifying it, really. This is the rack that...
I haven't really dealt with Crestron stuff, but yeah, alright. Alright, next video. Every insane hack in the 2026 Iran war so far. So this is like a 10-minute video from Satanic. We've seen quite a few of their videos. They do good little daily cybersecurity news wrap-ups of what's going on.
Israelis hacked an app, Iranians sabotaged tens of thousands of phones, and Russians hacked a go-karting racetrack. Also a couple...
Russians hacked a go-kart and racetrack? Okay, I need to know the reasoning behind this one.
Of Amazon's data centers were blown up. Let's take a closer look at everything hacking related over the past couple of weeks during the war in Iran. Before a single missile was even fired, the hackers came first. The US Cyber and Space Command disrupted Iran's communication and early warning systems, providing cover for more than 100 aircraft to carry out the first wave of attacks. Unsurprisingly, they're not telling us how they did it. The only clue we have comes from interviews with US officials on how they did something similar last year before sending in bombers to take out Iran's nuclear sites. Like any computer system, military systems run on networks. By taking a particular router or server, you can effectively take out the whole system, at least temporarily. But don't bet on them telling us exactly what piece of equipment they targeted. Shortly after missiles started raining down on Tehran, phones were bombarded with notifications, not from the government advising people to take shelter, but from an app called Badei Sabah. It's an Android app that Iranians use to plan their prayer times around the football, apparently.
I didn't know such a thing existed, but I guess we need to know when to actually, we need to know when to start facing towards Mecca to pray, but we also must make sure it doesn't interfere with our football games.
It's got 5 million downloads and is pretty popular among the more religious people in Iran, who are way more likely to be supportive of Iran's regime and exactly who Israel and the US wanted to send a message to. Help has arrived. Anyone who joins in defending and protecting the Iranian nation will be granted amnesty and forgiveness. 2 weeks into the conflict, it doesn't look like many people have taken them up on that offer, but these messages were blasted out for 30 minutes, with the app somehow being hijacked in the first psyop of the war, the digital equivalent of dropping leaflets on Allied soldiers at Dunkirk. No one has taken responsibility for the hack, but given the timing here, this coinciding with the strikes, there are a couple of suspects. Also in PSYOPs, over the past couple of weeks, there have been several claims of Iranian TV being hijacked to broadcast.
So here's the thing. The screenshots they had, if they were purely English, I somehow would think that would be more on the Americans doing something like that. Here's the reason why. Knowing how things have been broadcasted when it's been the Israeli side, they tend to actually broadcast in multiple languages. But when Americans do it, they tend to think oh, everybody must speak English. If you think I'm wrong here, there's a reason there's the stereotype of Americans dealing with foreigners. Have you ever seen, when an American deals with somebody with English as a second language, and they think somehow speaking English either slower or louder is somehow going to translate into they're gonna understand it? See, I beat you, Abby. I knew exactly where you're gonna go with it. But that is the actual way. Whereas I can tell you, having lived in that region, when you're in Israel, it's not unheard of to walk around and suddenly you're in areas that predominantly are Russian speaking or Arabic speaking or Hebrew, or then you find English or even Yiddish, or, it's a really interesting, dichotomy. The closest thing I can really tell people that it's equivalent to is going to New York and the different areas of New York. Suddenly it's you gotta know this language in that part. You gotta know that language in that part. That's just how it is. Not that many people understand Hebrew, etc., Arabic, and French. Well, in America, yeah. Overseas, though, I will tell you this, a large amount of foreigners know more than one language, may even know more than two. My family, first generation, Moroccan American here, We had Ladino, French, Arabic, Hebrew, English, and sometimes Spanish in my language, in my family. That's 6 languages. I'm not even joking. And for those of you wondering what Ladino is, it's a mix of Hebrew and Spanish. It's one of the, it's like kind of like the Yiddish of the Middle East. It's actually a really beautiful language, but it's really dying off compared to Yiddish.
Cast speeches from Trump and Netanyahu. It's hard to verify these claims, as it could just be some guy casting a YouTube video to his TV. Plus, verification is all the more difficult because the whole of Iran has been experiencing connection difficulties lately. On day 1 of the war, Iran disconnected their entire civilian population from the internet.
Spanish has Arabic influence. Oh, it definitely does. And that goes back to the Spanish Inquisition, which my family can trace our rates through, our heritage through, by the way. The Inquisition. What a show, the Inquisition. Don't you know we have a mission to convert the Jews? History of the World Part 1, if you don't know that reference. Why do they call them Torquemada? Because they can't talk him out of anything. God, I love Mel Brooks. Anyway, Spanish culture definitely has, Spanish culture and language definitely has Arabic influences because there was a period of time when, you know, you had a lot of the Arab Muslim world that did live in the Spanish region. Yeah, you had the Moors. In fact, there's an interesting thing where a lot of people don't know this, but there was a famous rabbi, a Sephardi rabbi, that lived, you know, in this I think like in Spain or something like that, called the Rambam, or in English they call him Maimonides. I don't know how they translate these names. That literally said if you can't live in a Jewish area, the second best place to live is in a Muslim area. So we were actually like getting along pretty well prior to the Spanish Inquisition. Then the Spanish Inquisition came around and it's just like, hey, you don't like Jesus? Well, screw you. Get the hell out. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but you kind of get the point.
Simply because people who can't communicate can't organize. Internet blackouts are incredibly common in Iran, with them often having their own Wikipedia pages. But this latest blackout is into its 20th day, making it the longest shutdown in Iran's history. There was a brief glitch in Iran's filtering system, but the blackout remains. Whilst the assassination of Iran's supreme leader was achieved through very conventional...
Okay, what the hell, like, keeps popping through? Oh. I'm like, what the hell is popping through?
Without hackers, it wouldn't have been possible. According to the Financial Times, nearly all the traffic cameras in Tehran had been hacked for years, with their feeds being relayed straight to servers in Tel Aviv.
Why is it flickering like that? That is so weird. Weird. I don't know, I keep getting issues.
Allowing the Israelis to surveil the Supreme Leader's compound, mapping out day-to-day movements, with one camera providing an angle that was particularly useful, allowing the Israelis to track and build profiles on security guards simply based on where they like to park their cars.
That's interesting. So here's the reality. Traffic systems, not all that secure. I know that. Because when I was in an MSP, there was a client of ours that actually handled the traffic systems. Oh my God, a lot of those systems are a little bit more open than you would like it. That, like, literally, if I were, like, this is how you have to think about, like, when people are like, well, how would you conduct a war? Well, the number one important thing about any war is intelligence. And how does one gain intelligence? You get behind their enemy lines. Well, we've moved it to, like, having to require people on the ground to spot movement, to let them have their systems do the work for you. What about traffic lights? Oh, traffic lights are not that secure. The security around it is more so around how hard it is to access the system from a protocol and physical access. That's the difference. But as far as, like, the actual security of the overall systems, not that great. You have to remember, a lot of these systems have been installed, like, for many years. And a lot of local governments, security is an afterthought. And the way they think about it is, this is a public traffic camera. Who really cares? It's, because everyone can, usually tap into these systems and, view whatever traffic's going on. But at a national defense level, that is of a concern. These things do need to be secured, because if I were a foreign adversary planning to attack us, just saying, I would aim after critical infrastructure. I would aim after what can I use of the enemy to be able to utilize for my own intelligence gathering needs. How can I use their own intelligence against them? You see what I'm saying?
Phone networks had also been hacked, which helps the Israelis confirm that the Supreme Leader was going to be at his compound at the expected time. Before sending in the missiles, the Israelis disrupted cell towers in the area, preventing security guards from being able to communicate. And
imagine if someone was using AI on some of those on some of those cameras to gather information. Oh, I believe it was. Hello from Denmark. I'd like to say to a new Linux user like myself, look up Hack Hub Ultimate as a... I don't know. Your message got kind of cut off there. You're still typing. Oh, good learning game. Okay. Haven't seen it. I mean, some people can check it out.
Receive advanced warnings of the 30 bombs that were heading their way, which ended up killing the Supreme Leader, and the compound is now listed as temporarily closed on Google Maps.
I think traffic lights run on their own independent systems. They do, to an extent. They might actually require someone to physically mess with the boxes. They do, to an extent. So... it depends on the systems that you're having. Again, this is not an area that I am extremely well versed in. I've only talked to people that have worked on these systems. There are control boxes to all this, but all that data has to get fed in somewhere. And that's the question. So, some of those cameras are basically connected over an IP link. Some of them are connected over like a CCTV kind of like system. It's crazy how much traffic cams can be useful. Last tornado season, we used the cams to look at tornadoes. Oh yeah, absolutely. They are absolutely useful. And it's one of those questions of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because they are public infrastructure. The public, I do believe, has a right to have access to these systems. But at the same time, by these systems being public, they can be used to gather intel if someone were trying to do the nasty. I mean, not do the nasty, but do something nasty, malicious against us. I mean, if they want to do the nasty, they could probably use the cameras to figure out where they're not pointed and then go to do the nasty in the blind spots. I just gave some of y'all a nasty idea, didn't I? Anyway.
For various complex geopolitical reasons that far exceed the scope of this video, Iran is not happy with their Arab neighbours, Jordan being one of them. The country maintains a reserve of wheat, big enough to keep the entire country fed for 10 whole months. It's managed by this company, and Iran decided to make them a target. Thanks to a weak password, Iranian hackers were able to remotely break in and access the industrial control systems that are used to manage the silos storing the wheat reserve.
Wow. Comes down to a weak password, doesn't it? What is this, would this be SCADA? Would this be a SCADA system that they're talking about?
Hacking industrial control systems is somewhat of a speciality for Iranian government hackers, having hacked into water treatment facilities multiple times over the past few years. This time around, Jordan's National Cybersecurity Center said that the hackers tried to sabotage the reserve by messing with the temperature controls. But before any damage could be done, the intrusion was detected and the hackers were locked out. This marks the first time ever that a US tech company's data centers have been targeted by a military. Amazon AWS reported on their service health dashboard that 3 of their data centers in the Middle East had been impacted by objects, 2 in the UAE and 1 in Bahrain. Those objects turned out to be Shahed drones, part of a much larger barrage which Amazon says caused sparks and fire. They really make the whole thing sound like some minor corporate inconvenience. In reality, this is what a Shahed drone attack looks like.
Damn!
Trying to extinguish those sparks and fire, they caused a bunch of additional water damage to the data centers, which only amplified the damage. The
Ooh. Yeah, water and electronics do not mix.
resulting outage affected over 100 AWS services, and it knocked offline.
Sounds like Stuxnet. Now, Stuxnet was a totally different thing. They were going after air-gapped systems, and that involved physical access to the things. This meant that they actually had their wheat control systems in Jordan, not air-gapped. So, yeah. Now, there are ways to potentially get behind air-gapped systems without even being there. Like, there's ways to compromise networks through the electric grids using pulses and stuff like that. It's a little bit complex that I don't even fully understand it, but these were, like, novel concept attacks, so there's ways that it can be done.
2 zones in the region. This was a bit of a problem because AWS is only built to withstand the loss of 1 zone. This goes above Amazon's redundancy plans, and they've been advising customers to migrate to other regions altogether. As a result of the sparks and fire, outages of banking apps in the area are thought to be a direct result of the strikes, and the disruption seems to be ongoing, but it's unclear what the latest update is, as Amazon has stopped providing public updates.
This is why when I use AWS, what I tend to use is AWS USC 2 and what is it, EU South 1 or 2? It's the one in Spain. Okay? That's what I use, because everybody, for some god-awful reason, is like, hey, we're going to make it in the US in East 1. And then they're also like, hey, we're going to put it in the EU under EU West 1 in Ireland. So you basically have, like, most of the world's crap basically in Virginia. And then a lot of people, for some reason, focus it in Ireland. And then, yeah. What are your thoughts on Bazite Linux? I think that it exists.
March 4th, Israel announced that they destroyed a compound in eastern Tehran, which, among other things, was home to Iran's cyber warfare headquarters. To what extent this knocked out Iran's cyber capabilities isn't clear, but it didn't stop Iran from launching their most devastating cyber attack of the war so far. Stryker is a $132 billion American healthcare company that makes a variety of surgical equipment. They have offices around the world and employ over 50,000 people. But on March 11th, their employees took to social media, venting frustration that their work phones had somehow stopped working, having remotely been wiped. Login pages on company portals had been defaced with the logo of Handler Hack. On the surface, these guys are a pro-Iranian hacktivist group, but given just how skilled they are, it's thought that they're really just a front for Iranian military intelligence. On their dark website, they claim to have wiped over 200,000 systems, including servers and mobile devices, stolen 50 terabytes of data, and forced Stryker offices in 79 countries to close their doors. This attack wasn't done with advanced wiper malware, but rather facilitated by the fact that Stryker uses Microsoft Intune. Intune allows companies to monitor and control whole fleets of devices.
Right. We were talking about this at my local DEF CON group.
It's meant to improve security, enforcing security standards for all devices used within a company. But Handler managed to compromise an admin account, probably with just a simple case of phishing.
You fucking morons. Oh. Why was a simple admin account being able to be phished, able to do this much damage? Why were people able to log in to admin accounts at that level? Why were you not zero trusting this, where you limit the access to the different people out? Oh, but you know, everybody looks at cybersecurity as an expense, right up until these kind of things happen. Yeah, bet that their board members were like, well, how much did we spend on cybersecurity? Oh, we only spent that much? So, the great news out of this, though, is that it got a whole bunch of companies scared about the whole Stryker incident. And I've heard of quite a few companies that are now doing emergency increases on their cybersecurity budgets and giving overhauls. I've heard of several of my colleagues finally getting approval on the identity and access management projects that they've been dying for getting for like 2 or 3 years, but we're told, oh, this is going to be too much work, too much, you know, money and all that, and they're sitting back like basically saying like, something like this could happen. And then they finally, you know, came back and said, you know, it's like, well, how are we going to be affected by Stryker? Well, if you would refer to my previous email. Can you dumb it down for this normie? Dumb what down? Which aspect? I just went on a tangent about a whole lot of things. A USA company outside of USA that is not cheap. Yeah. Docker Hub is verifying people in Docker images after I asked, like, thank you, and that was fast. I haven't used Skype since the early 2000s. Does anyone still use it? No. Most of Skype, I think Skype's been pretty much gone and been replaced more or less by Microsoft Teams on that. This whole admin thing. Okay, so more or less Intune is an administrator panel. So Intune allows you to do multiple things. So it allows you to do MDM, mobile device management. So imagine I could control my phone with corporate policy. So when you get your phone provisioned, you can have it controlled through Microsoft Intune, or some companies tie it in with Jamf or other that. But let's just simplify it and say you have mobile device management that can control your laptops, your phones, tie it into the servers, and then the idea is that you have the ability to monitor all those devices, make sure they're patched and everything, and it should add more security. Now, in an ideal company, no one has God mode privileges, or there are very select few people that have God mode admin rights, and that is if they were able to access an admin account that was not properly secured. Like, what I mean by that is you should have a single sign-on system with zero trusting that can then tell you not only, you know, who you are, what you are, you know, who you are, you know, like, what is it? Who you are, what you are, God, I'm tired right now. But basically there's 3 identity factors, and then there's a 4th you can add in on zero trusting, which is, where am I? So you can actually tie it into telemetry. So if like into geolocation. So if somebody logs in from a suspicious location, it should be able to throw up additional logins. Well, the most you should have for a traditional admin password that's not tied into an SSO is a break glass account. Basically an account that in case your SSO goes down, you can log into, but very, very few people have access to that account. Okay? Now, in the sense of admin accounts inside of there, most people should not be logging into Intune with an admin account. You should at most, in most cases and day-to-day, have admin view-only privileges. And then what you should be doing is, let's say they do have to do something in an administrator fashion. They should have to open up their specific admin account. So what I mean by that is generally a lot of companies that have administrative permissions have a whole separate browser they have to open up. Like you'll open up your browser in incognito mode, have a whole other session, and you're logged into like, you know, like instead of like mgeek. Okay, let's say my username is mgeek. You would have like a-mgeek is now my administrator, or a mgeek, or like something like that. But basically, it's a whole other account with administrative privileges, and my main account should only be able to have read-only access on a lot of the important things, and then when I do have to make changes, I have to actively go and log into that administrator account. Now, I don't know the specifics about Stryker, but this is, an unfortunate gap in a lot of different companies.
This gave them unlimited control over Microsoft Intune, which includes the ability to remotely send wipe commands.
Yep.
This button is typically only pushed when a phone gets lost or stolen, but here it was used en masse for tens of thousands of company devices, causing total chaos, with Stryker publicly admitting that they have no idea when they'll be back to normal. But they are assuring people that their actual medical devices are perfectly safe to use. Afterwards, Handler Hack claims that they wiped 12 petabytes of data and have already begun leaking some of those internal company documents, saying that they targeted Stryker out of revenge for the US military's alleged airstrike on a school in Iran that ended up killing over 100 children. In the past couple of days, Handler's ClearNet domains have been seized by the feds, but they're still very much alive on the dark.
I'm not sure I really understand how you're like, hey, 100 kids died here, so we want to compromise this medical supply company. I don't know if I understand the logic behind that. I mean, like, if they were gonna, like, go after anybody, why don't you, like, I don't know, go after an insurance company, wipe out everybody's medical debts? Come on, Robin Hood this bitch. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're the good guys. I'm just saying. They got the spirit, but I don't know if they really understood the play. As a way to torture them, as the U.S. tortured the parents, just to be petty. But it's like one of those. The irony here is Hammurabi's law: an eye for the eye, an eye for an eye makes the whole world go blind. That's the problem with this logic here. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm the type of person that sees, like, yes, one injustice is an atrocity, but one atrocity doesn't, deserve another atrocity, because then you just end up with this endless cycle of violence, of bullshit, because then things keep happening over and over and over again, because your justification is, well, they just did this to us, so we have to go back to do that to them. Well, and then the other side goes, well, they just did that to us, so now we have to go back to do that. And then the other side goes, well, they just did. You see the problem? Eventually, you have to break that cycle.
Dark web. It's not just state-sponsored hackers getting involved. The hacktivist side of things has been incredibly busy. CyberKnow reckons 84 hacktivist groups are currently active in the war, with the vast majority of them aligning themselves with Iran. Among the most active is a group called 313 Team. There's several write-ups on these guys, and they're one of the few hacktivist groups mentioned by name in mainstream media. Just like most other hacktivist groups though, their operations almost exclusively consist of DDoSing some website for an hour or two, claiming victory before moving on to the next target. So pretty basic cyber attacks that rarely have much of a real-world impact. There are exceptions, like a couple of days ago when 313 Team attacked Microsoft Exchange. This did result in actual connection problems for a few hours, which Microsoft acknowledged. From their Telegram posts, though, their DDoS attacks only...
To be fair, it's email. I mean, email just sucks in general, as we've always said.
...often last for an hour or two, which really didn't sit right with my British cynicism. It's long enough to boot a website offline and generate some headlines for yourself, but not long enough for the attack to cost you much to carry out. My cynicism was vindicated when they announced that they were sponsored by a DDoS for hire service, which is actually really smart marketing when you think about it. Everyone needs sponsors, I guess, which is a great segue for my sponsor, but I don't have one today. Moving on. Team, but if you read past the headline and take a look at the actual victim site, it's often just something irrelevant. This one being for some restaurant in Kuwait.
We are elite hackers. We DDoS this mom and pop grill shop in Kuwait that no one's ever heard of. Yeah.
And judging from the Wayback Machine, it doesn't look like the website was ever really even live in the first place.
Wait, what?
Russian hacktivist groups have gotten involved and aligned themselves with Iran, the most well-known being No Name. But again, I couldn't really find any impactful operations to speak of, really. They did recently hack a car wash in Romania, and let's not forget the breach of a CCTV system here in the UK belonging to an indoor go-karting racetrack. That's about it for this video. If you learned something, make sure to hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.
They probably can't DDoS anything important. That's the problem with a lot of these cybersecurity groups is they keep like, hey, we DDoS this. It wasn't that important to begin with. Yeah. All right. Reddit wants Face ID. This is a video from Deep Humor. So, the internet is getting more IDs. Papers, please.
No, Reddit, no. I thought you guys were on our side. So apparently Reddit CEO says the company is considering requiring Face ID to ensure humanity in order to crack down on AI bots on their platform. So previously Reddit had actually filed a lawsuit against Australia's highest court or whatever because of the whole ID age verification laws that were happening over there. They had banned social media for kids under 16 and Reddit was like, no, we shouldn't be having to follow this. This is wrong. And they went ahead and sued them. So it looks like they were on our side. They were trying to fight against ID age verification. And recently, about like 3 weeks back, Reddit actually did get fined £14 million for concerning child age check failing. So basically not having proper ID age verification and age checks. But it did seem like overall Reddit was on our side. They were saying that they disagreed with this. They didn't want to collect the biometric data of their users. And now it's all went downhill. Reddit's CEO actually just did an interview where he said, yeah, they are actually considering requiring Face ID so they can fight the bot problem on their server.
Okay, that comment stands out to me. Ariuk, I think it is. 2010, don't share personal info online. 2026, upload your face to comment.
But the weird thing is there's so many other ways to deal with bots on the platform. So what are you proposing?
That is a great way to just, like, you know, catch a screenshot there. Like, look at this. You got this guy, like, and then this guy's like, I really don't want to be here. And then this dude just looks like he blazing.
That has bots on there, they need to require Face ID and ID age verification and all that crap. Before I keep ranting and raving, let's go ahead and listen to the clip and hear what he had to say. This is Reddit CEO right here.
Like, I'll give you an example of AI content that's totally acceptable. Translated content. Like, I'm a non-native speaker. Like, help me write better. Like, that's just the world we live in now. Yeah. And so for us, like, Reddit is for humans. Like, that is our platform. That is our product. It's human connection and community. So we're going to start actually talking about this more, so that this is a really apt time to have this conversation. This idea of humanness and human verification and what I call ass in seat. Like, is there actually a human using Reddit right now, regardless of...
They want my ID, but I lost, but here is my ID.
I think the most...
Have you seen the Persona ID scan thing they found in the US? Yeah, we talked about that weeks ago.
Light way. I think there's various technologies.
In fact, I have that included on a YouTube video that I made. So there's a separate YouTube video that actually touches in on that with the ID verification. The title was something along the lines of you'll need your ID to use your operating system or something like that.
This lightweight way, this is something like Face ID. Face ID or Touch ID.
I know, you're good, Strongy.
It's in a family of technology called passkeys, which I actually didn't appreciate about these like a year ago. They actually require human presence. Like, a human has to touch or do or look at something. Yeah. And so that actually just proves that there's like a person there, or get you pretty far. Yeah. And so I think that's very lightweight and accepted. I think there's heavier versions like the ID checking services, which we have to use, for regulations here or there. Yeah. And I think there's in-between technologies, like, that the internet really needs, like third-party individual.
Now, something you touched on is the pass keys, you know, the UB keys and all that, like one of these little guys that I got here in my computer. I'm totally fine with making that more of a requirement for identification, or at least authentication. You've already been seeing passkeys be pushed more and more, like more applications are actually using them. Now, the one limitation I will say that with the YubiKey is the ones that are post 5.7 firmware, which is anything bought past May 2024, I think it was? Or 2025. Anyway, any of the YubiKeys you buy recently is, you can have at most 100 passkeys assigned to it. You can have 64 TOTP, but an unlimited amount of FIDO or WebAuthn connections. Prior to 5.7, your older YubiKeys could only do 32 TOTP and 25 passkeys. So just keep that in mind.
No ID required, decentralized.
Did you know Ren and Stimpy is a video game on Steam? I did not know that.
Like information providers that there's a need for on the internet, because not just Reddit, every platform wants to know, is this a person? Now Reddit's version is this a person, but we don't want to know which person this is. Right? As part of our promise to our users is we don't know your name, but we do want to know that you're a person. And so it'll be an evolution for us.
But again, are Reddit mods people? I'm sorry. That's a callback to like the whole like Reddit mod video with that one guy that was going crazy because he got banned off of live stream fails. Sorry. That was just
I think for a while.
Reddit mods aren't real, I swear.
Find the right kind of middle ground here.
No, Steve, no. That is not how you determine whether there are real people on your platform or not. Do you remember CAPTCHAs? Don't they exist? CAPTCHAs are literally created to try to stop bots on platforms. And if you guys don't know what a CAPTCHA is, it's one.
Okay, but here's the problem with that argument there. You can use AI increasingly to defeat CAPTCHAs. So I'm not really sure that's the strong argument that you really think it is. Now, I do have to say that the FIDO argument, or at least the passkey argument, that is something that's potentially solid. But here's the problem with passkeys that he's overlooking here. There is a way to have a passkey without actually having a hardware component. What I mean by that is, okay, you're looking at your Android or iOS phone and it may do passkeys, right? But Bitwarden and Proton both support passkeys without a hardware component. So you can tie the passkey to the password manager. And I can extrapolate from that idea, there is a programmatic way to insert a passkey. What I'm basically saying is, we're fucked no matter what we do.
Those things where they show you an image and they say, hey, click every single part of the image that has a traffic light in it. And obviously bots would have a hard time solving something like this, but honestly, so would
Nah.
I'm just an overthinker. But does this image count as being a traffic light? I mean, look at that little tip right there. That's kind of a traffic
That's my problem every time.
Hackers might not be the most effective things in the world to deal with bots, but there is absolutely no way that Steve, after suing Australia for their social media ban and going ahead and trying to fight against the UK for the fines they were facing for not having age verification, is now himself proposing the idea of having facial ID on the platform. What are we talking about?
You were supposed to fight the dark side, not become the dark side. You were the chosen one.
Verification without the whole "it's for the kids" thing. Now he's given a completely different reason. Usually all these super corrupt politicians like this lady over here, usually they're talking about, oh, it's to protect the kids. We want to make sure our kids are safe from online harm, and they're
Fuck them kids. And I don't mean that in a Jeffrey Epstein way. I mean that as in your parents, you should take care of your kids. But me as an adult, I don't give a shit about your kid. That sounds like an asshole thing to say. I don't know how else to put it. But seriously, it's not my job to, police your kid and their browsings on the internet. That's your job as a parent.
Therefore, go ahead and send a facial ID, AI facial scan, ID verification, fingerprint, grandmother's middle.
No, vampire, we are not going to stab them kids, okay? That's a little bit too far. I know you're joking, but... hate mass surveillance for the reason of controlling everyone. Parents should control their kids and restrict their internet access. It's not that hard with all the tools these days. The problem is parents are pretty lazy when it comes to a lot of their kids. And this is not something new. There have been lazy parents for years. I mean, boomers, historically, had to actually have an ad on TV come on at like 10 o'clock at night. Or something like that, where it's like, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Like, they had to be reminded. Hey, motherfucker, you got kids. Where are they? But, we do have a problem today where parents are basically just throwing kids in front of a device and they're giving them a screen because they'd rather them deal with the screen than deal with them as... the responsibility is. Like, I'll tell you straight up, when I have a kid one day, I do hope to have that one day, although a mini-me seems like a very dangerous thought knowing the shit I was up to. But anyway, when that happens, when they get their first cell phone, it's not going to be a smartphone. I'm going to get them a dumb phone. I'm going to get them a flip phone. I'm going to get that, like, Caterpillar T9 texting flip phone that construction workers still get. Like, that's what they're going to get. Oh, you want to see something cool? Here, you can spell boobs. That's your, fun right there. You can maybe play Snake. And then you're going to learn the concept of speed dial. Okay? But yeah, there is definitely a problem when it comes to, like, we're looking to government to parent our kids. And ironically, these are the same freaking, conservatives and Republicans in the USA, and I can't speak much for the rest of the world, but these are the same politicians for many years saying, the government has no right to tell me how to parent my kid, and they should not be forcing, curriculum I don't agree with down my kid's throat. I should have control over that. And here they are saying, hey, well, we want to protect the kids. Well, guess what, Karen? Fuck your kid. Not my responsibility. Go parent your shit. I say stab them kids in games. IRL. That was the dumbest commercial ever. Yeah, well, the problem is there's a reason why they had to make it in the first place. I just hate kids in my lobbies. Yeah. You can buy phones that are set up to be restricted from the beginning nowadays. Oh yeah, totally. But again, parents are lazy.
Name, everything. And their whole argument is they want to try to protect the kids on the internet with mass surveillance, right? However, this guy, the Reddit CEO, is now saying that he's going to purely do this just because there might be too many bots on Reddit. Are you kidding me? That's the only way you can think of to deal with bots on the platform? Not a strong CAPTCHA system, not having the user do some sort of questionnaire or something like that that goes and proves that they're human? No, the only thing you can think of is everybody has to send in an ID or an AI facial scan? I'm fucking baffled by the 180 that Steve and Reddit is doing right now. I know he's saying that it's just a consideration, and I know it's not official right now, but the fucking audacity to even recommend AI facial scans as a part of your process to prove that people are human. So what's your idea, that every single website should have to do something like this? Are you kidding me? Why can't you guys just do a better job moderating your platform and get rid of bots on the platform? Why does everybody on Reddit now all of a sudden maybe have to go ahead and send in a facial ID just to use the platform? Because remember, a lot of the times with age verification, even though all of it is stupid, a lot
probably changed up because of investors.
Verification.
Maybe.
18 plus subreddit, like some subreddit with like a bunch of nudity or something like that, right? Then they would ask for an AI facial scan or whatever, right? His proposal and what he's considering is having facial ID just to use the website. And yeah, I know he said the whole fingerprinting thing and, pass.
These kids need 44444 for mental health.
Information that they want to collect. It's just frustrating to see a website and a service that I've actually made videos kind of applauding, like, wow, good job, Reddit. You know, they went ahead and sued Australia's whole age verification thing. And I made a video where I gave them props. I basically kissed their asses. I was like, good job, Reddit. You guys did good. We're all behind you and we're all supporting you and stuff like that, right? And I understand that Reddit did go ahead and implement age verification anyways in certain areas, but you know, you can't win them all. You know, I know that they are getting pressure from the law and stuff like that. But again, this is what makes me really frustrated about this specific situation with the Reddit CEO. This one in particular is his idea. Nobody's forcing him to have a global facial ID across the entire platform. He's the one who proposed it. And it just makes me think, man, the tinfoil deep humor is back, right? But you really can't trust any of these CEOs, politicians, any of these people. Basically, if anybody has any type of money or power in the world at the moment, you can't trust them. And I know that sounds dystopian and I know that sounds like fear-mongering stuff, but like, god damn, man, like even this guy, like, I know Reddit's not a perfect platform, and honestly, I don't even really use Reddit that much. I actually use YouTube and Twitter a lot more than Reddit. But it was still very exciting.
I really don't use Twitter. I don't use Twitter at all. I have a Twitter account, I just don't log into it. It's privated. I use Blue Sky and Mastodon, and I'm mostly on Discord and Matrix more than anything. I got back on Instagram. I don't know if I like it. No, I don't like it.
For me to go ahead and see a platform like Reddit going ahead and fighting against ID age verification. I was like, holy crap, at least somebody's on.
More surveillance. I love the government sniffing my ass. Well, it's a good thing they're coming out with smell-o-vision.
Our side, right? If you guys have seen my video yesterday, which you guys should, it was a funny video, but like, you know, obviously we all know that a service like 4chan is going ahead and fighting against Ofcom and age verification in general. And 4chan obviously doesn't have near as much money as websites like Reddit and Discord and stuff like that. So I was hoping that some of these bigger social media companies would fight alongside, you know, privacy, against mass surveillance, freedom for everybody, against the collection of biometric data. And I thought Reddit was going to be one of those places. So I was like, all right, awesome. Well, it's a good thing Reddit's on our side, right? Right? Wrong. Yeah. Now Reddit is going ahead and proposing facial ID as well. It is just really, really annoying, man. Tim Sweeney, who is the Epic CEO, who is in his own shit right now because apparently him and the rest of Epic Games can't afford to run Fortnite anymore. So they made the price of V-Bucks a lot higher, which I think is hilarious. You guys make so much money. What do you mean you can't afford?
Well, Epic can go suck one anyway.
To run Fortnite. And it's funny because he's also been liking some of my tweets as well about age verification. He actually commented on this saying maybe that's what this total fool thinks anonymous means, but it's not what anonymous means. He actually commented on one of my tweets about NetChoice as well. If you guys remember, I took issue to NetChoice having Meta listed as one of their members, even though Meta is one of the people that is funding all the age verification laws across the country and probably across the world. In fact, not even one of the people. Meta is the main company that is going ahead and funding age verification. But anyways, I made a tweet taking issue with NetChoice for it, and he said nowadays NetChoice mostly fights on the side of good and is happy to take funding from anyone who's willing to spend regardless of alignment. There's clearly a massive realignment of advocacy orgs at the moment as big tech fragments into a team open and team surveillance state. So I mean, awesome. Thanks for the input, Tim, and thanks for liking the tweet. But to be honest, I don't know if you're doing this because you're actually against ID age verification or if you just want to take some heat off of yourself by increasing the price.
I think it's the latter.
I don't know what side you're on, Tim, and honestly, you are a CEO yourself. Like I said, man, I just don't trust any of these CEOs anymore. I'm paranoid now, man. Felt like fucking Reddit stabbed us all in the back here.
How does Ofcom enforce anything if the company has no presence in the UK like 4chan, just a website that can be accessed from the UK? They don't. I don't think you are aware of just how much 4chan has trolled Ofcom. They have no presence. They have no jurisdiction whatsoever over them. I think even the USA, last I recalled, said, yo, this is not right. You are trying to go after a US company that is completely on US soil and doesn't even have a presence in your country. If I were actually in the boat of the USA and I were in the government position, I might take a petty playbook move here and then start doing the same thing against random British companies just to prove the point. Not with the intention of, like, penalizing them there, but just kind of like, do you get the point here? Like, play a game of chicken with them.
by doing this, and the Reddit CEO, man, you really just let me down today. But yeah, everybody's throwing in their 2 cents with age verification right now, including the Reddit CEO, who apparently is considering requiring Face ID to ensure humanity in order to crack down on AI bots. I mean, I don't know. Reddit just turncoated on us. Let me know what you guys.
How about you go after your Reddit mods first? I mean, you got a bigger problem with your mods than anything. All right. Next video we have is going into renewable energy. Han shared this. Old wind turbines are piling up. Here's how to revive them. This is from DW, which, if I remember, is a German news channel. I watched them quite a bit, if I recall, when I was living in Germany. All right.
Second-hand shopping is my thing. I'll look up any item. Motorcycle parts, furniture, clothes, and...
a wind turbine.
Yes, there are websites where literally anyone can buy used wind turbines.
Oh!
Wild. Imagine having a wind turbine in your backyard.
For some
I
companies, that's
totally love that.
reality. Wind energy started booming in the late 2000s, and now tens of thousands of those old wind turbines will need to be replaced every year. This would mean loads of trash.
Unless you can buy
Being British right now sucks. They really want to become China. Look, look, look. One of my exes was British. One of my aunts was British. I say was because she unfortunately has passed away. The aunt, not the ex. I just realized how I phrased that. Y'all are like chill people, but your government's effed. There's a reason why so many people that were under your thumb have revolted violently in the ways that they have. We revolted over tea, amongst other things. Technically, it was a bunch of other things that if you look at the U.S. Constitution, it kind of actually tells you what the British did to us by just looking at, why did they make a bunch of these laws? Oh, that's what the British did to them. But yeah, look. As Americans, are we attracted to British accents? Yes. Are we attracted to British teeth? No. Just as much as we are unattracted by the way that your government's conducting itself. I said what I said.
wind turbines.
We followed a company that gives these retired giants a new lease of life, which is not an easy process.
I don't know really what's happening, but the crane isn't moving anymore.
You can definitely power your home with one of these in your backyard. I would love it.
Cheaper than new ones.
So is this the perfect deal?
We're in the very north of Germany, where the wind is strong and a lot of wind turbines have been built.
There's this warden.
Wind turbine.
Just random cow picture.
Turbine, wind turbine. There's more wind turbines than people here. Oh my gosh. Hey, Tim. How you doing?
Hi. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah. That's a huge turbine.
This is Tim Lochtenberg. He's in charge of ensuring that everything goes smoothly in this dismantling process. These turbines are from the biggest European manufacturer, Vestas, with a capacity of 3 megawatts and just turned 13 years old. But
straight up, if I had a nice amount of land, which is one of my hopes one day, I would love to get one of these big bad boys installed on my land and then just have my house powered by it and then have battery banks, you know, like to be able to like power it. I'd let a company like install that shit with the condition of I get free power. I get free power. And then if that happens, boy, I'm going to be running a data center in my own backyard. Watch.
they have to be taken down because a huge transformer station will be built right here to bring in energy from offshore wind farms into Germany. That means rotor blades, the hub, gearbox and housing will have to come down.
What's usually the biggest challenge that you have when you dismantle such a turbine?
So basically,
Are these expensive? Oh, yeah.
we want to go lifting, we look at wind forecast and determine, okay, this is the gap.
I wish everywhere invested in nuclear more. It's the best energy source, but oh, they are unsafe. How are the ones about the one that blew up in Ukraine? Nah, that blew up because for even Soviet standards, they were doing stupid shit. Well, yeah, nuclear energy is one of the most safe ways, and it also produces a lot less nuclear waste than a lot of people understand, and they don't even understand that France is actually a good case for this. You can actually recycle a good amount of nuclear fuel. That I think somebody, I could get the math here wrong, but like something like the effect of several trailers is all the nuclear waste that has been made by the USA. And let's say you were to bury that in the ocean. That's all the waste that's been done for all the decades we have of energy. And I do think we're going to need a mix of nuclear, fission energy until we figure out fusion energy. That's a whole other ball game. But we're going to need a mix of, you know, wind, solar, hydro, geothermal. We need to have that nice mixture of energy there. And, of course, energy storage is going to be a big, big part of it, too. And like you were saying, like, a lot of the issues with nuclear power have to do with people doing unsafe things. Like, shoot. What was the big one that happened in the Soviet Union? It melted down, and it's like still radioactive to this day. I can't remember what it was called. Chernobyl. Thank you. I couldn't remember for the life of me what it was called. You know, like you've had Chernobyl, you've had 3 Mile Island, you've had Fukushima. There's been a few things where it's like, okay, you know, there were definitely human errors on that. Oh, that's the one in Ukraine. Okay. Yeah. That was in Ukraine? Did not know. Okay. I just knew it was in the Soviet Union. I didn't know that was in Ukraine.
Wind gap where the wind is this low. Today is a beautiful day and we can do it just in normal working.
They were breaking a lot of protocols. Oh, yeah.
So do it at night or...
They must have had Homer Simpson at the controls.
In the morning.
If wind speeds exceed 35 kilometers an hour, dismantling the turbine becomes almost impossible, which means the whole operation comes to a halt. But that's not the only problem that can stop Tim and his team.
So, just some math for the Americans here. 35 kilometers, if I recall, 1.8 kilometers per mile. So roughly 19.5 miles per hour for you people.
But before they can even think about refurbishing and selling it, Tim and his colleagues have to check all the components and prep the turbine for disassembly.
Because imagine you have all the machinery here, the people, and then bolts on the turbine.
Hold on. I may have got my math wrong there. 21 and 3/4. It's a conversion of dividing by 1.609. Where did I get 1.8 from? I don't know. I gotta... yeah, just 21 miles per hour, which is not hard to achieve.
Massive delays. For example, yesterday the team had to cut off a different turbine at the bottom because bolts on the ground wouldn't come off, meaning the preparations have to be done really carefully, starting with the technicians in the turbine's head.
Oh my days. How high are we going up?
94 meters.
94 meters, okay. A little bit afraid of heights, but let's do it.
That's a good amount of height. 94 meters. Hold on. For the Americans here that didn't pay attention in school, metric makes more sense, okay? I'm just going to say this. America should move away from the U.S. standard system that we're on and into metric. Look, I use Celsius all day long, okay? All right? To prove it. Okay, where the hell is it? Okay, well, over here, it's saying that outside is 18 degrees Celsius. Now I gotta find... oh, no, here it is. My thermostat. Okay, it's a little close to my computer, so it's a little bit off, but it's saying it's 24.8 degrees Celsius over here. It's definitely not that warm. It's probably closer to... I'd say about 21. Water boils at 95 degrees Celsius. How does that make more sense than 203 degrees Fahrenheit? Well, water actually boils at 100 degrees Celsius. It just adjusts at different pressures. The British has the right mix, miles per hour Celsius metrics. But you also measure your weight in stone, which is a unit of measure we don't even fucking use in America. Give me the right mix. Use kg more. Yeah. Maybe, but the fact is, like, every British thing I've seen there is like, oh yeah, she weighs like, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there because I don't understand it, like 15 stone. At least they don't have their old money system. Yeah, well, at least they don't have their old colonies. 13 of them, to be exact. Okay, but anyway, 94 meters up is 308 feet.
I can tell you this is a tiny space. We're headed towards the heart of the turbine, the nacelle. It holds the turbine's most vital parts. The gearbox, which increases the blade's slow rotational speed, and the generator in the back. That's what turns the spinning of the blades into an electric current. Everything is wired and bolted together in a specific order that Tim and his team have to follow backwards to dismantle it.
So all the cables you see over here, everything needs to be disconnected and stored in a proper way so that if we build up this turbine again, it will go as smoothly as possible.
To make it a bit more challenging, there are hundreds of different commercial turbines that have been built by manufacturers over the last decades, and each one is built slightly different. Still, the view is pretty amazing, I have to say.
That's gotta be an interesting view. But then again, I'd be freaking out because I do not do well with like artificially tall structures. You put me on top of a hill or a mountain, I will do that all day. But artificial structures, I am afraid of heights. I don't know what it is. Like, I can be like on the top of a hill or something like that, or, you know, like a good mountain and be like, wow, this is a great view. Look at the town down there. But you put me on like the Empire State Building, I'm like, ah! I don't get it. It's probably the fact that it's like, this motherfucker has not been here that long. Ever go bouldering, climbing? Actually, yes. When I was in Israel, I actually did climbing and stuff in the Dead Sea. I actually did rappelling close to, in math, I think it comes to about 150 or 200 feet. Rappelling drop just straight down. That was fun. Like, I flipped upside down and did the whole Spider-Man kind of thing and all that. I was also a little bit more of a risk taker when I was younger, but yeah. I also threw a boulder into a minefield. Watch that explode. That involved a lot of booze, though.
Just prepping the turbine is a lot of work. For these ones, it takes roughly a week. And even then, when they open them up in the workshop, there still can be some surprises.
Don't solar get better milliwatts and turbine?
Up there, depending on the wind, you can even feel the turbine tilting a little bit. Not by much, but like a little bit, and yeah.
It's not my cup of tea, I can tell you.
Well, the thing is with solar, like, they both have their advantages. So that's why I say we need a mix. Like, I imagine if you could, you had a field. With that field, you could do both solar and wind. But the thing is, solar takes up more surface area. In terms of, you know, you're going to have to put all those panels out to take up fields and everything like that. Whereas a windmill, you don't need to take up as much. It's more because it's vertically. But aren't turbines loud? No, they're not. They're not generating wind. They're taking the wind and then turning. They're not really loud. In fact, like, if you've ever been near wind turbines, you basically don't hear much of anything at all because they're also turning at very slow speeds.
Yeah.
After the prep, it's time to bring in the big guns. First, the blades come off.
Imagine putting solar on the sides of the windmill pole. Now there's your thought. But they are an eyesore for Deer Leader's golf course. Well, he can go suck.
Check if the drawings that we got are the right drawings.
You know where the rest of that statement was going to go.
We need to check inside of the blade if everything is still in place, not something shifted or is broken or whatsoever. So that's the most important thing, the preparation.
But for now, everything works like a charm, despite the blade's massive length of 55 meters, almost as wide as a football pitch. The lift goes pretty smooth, and the other blades quickly follow.
Wow. You can even hear my echo. Jesus. And you can't even see the tip of it here.
Wow.
Next up is the hub of the turbine. It holds the blades and a mechanism that rotates the blades in and out of the wind. This is also one of the components where a lot of wear and tear happens. Its weight comes down to about 34 tons. But then there is trouble in dismantling Paradise as the team is prepping for the heaviest lift.
I don't know really what's happening, but the crane isn't moving anymore, and with such a close deadline, this can't be good news.
The crane's ropes are twisting, and that's no good when you're about to lift a 53-ton drivetrain of a wind turbine. It's delays like this that can shake up the economics of refurbishment projects. All these people, cranes and trucks cost money. Luckily, the guys find a quick solution so they can continue to dismantle the turbine. Generally, there are different ways to deal with turbines that have reached their end of life after being operational for 20 to 25 years. The easiest option is scrapping them with some parts going into recycling. After scrapping, you can simply build a new, bigger, better turbine, or use the towers as a foundation for a new one. This is called full or partial repowering.
We talked about repowering a couple streams ago.
Farm owners can also resell them to companies like Business in Wind. They look for suitable buyers and can get the turbine to the new owner. Depending on the age of the turbines, their wear and tear status, Tim and his team overhaul the turbines technically. Apart from Business in Wind, there are only a handful of companies in Europe and the US that provide these services. It's still a fairly new and developing market.
All of this is obviously quite an effort.
I don't know why TikTok like randomly goes to somebody else's streams. Like I was getting somebody else's comments going into my feed because of like the Windows feed. It's kind of funny. I was like, what the hell?
Logistics are insane. Then we haven't talked about technical overhaul yet, transportation. How do you make money on this?
Yeah, what we actually do is find customers who wanted to pay for all these efforts, plus some extra for our, let's say, company as we arrange all this. And
oh, somebody asked about the whole Kash Patel hack. Yeah, we were talking about that last stream, and we were ragging on him so hard. We had a video we talked about it too. Which tutorial for AI agent to write an email? Just have like ChatGPT or Claude write the email for you and then just put it in yourself. Don't have an AI agent do the emailing for you. That's begging for trouble.
Basically what we do, we deliver a turbine which can produce for another 10, maybe 15 years. You can just make a lot of energy out of these turbines.
A turbine like this, fully refurbed, can set you back about 1 to 1.5 million US dollars. That sounds like a lot, but for mid-sized companies that are only looking to buy 1 or 2 turbines, this can be a lucrative deal, especially if they have specific requirements.
We were quite limited in height.
This is
for refurb turbines. I doubt this is worth it on a larger scale. Actually, there is a large market for this. We were talking about this a few streams ago when we were watching about refurb and repowering and all of that, because there's the economics behind it. There's a huge market behind this stuff. Yeah, there actually is a lot of people with interest behind this. Because, like, say you have a lot of places that they want to upgrade their systems, but you have other places that are like, we want to get a new system in place, but we don't want to fully invest in a brand new system. The school that I went to here in Norway had their own wind turbine. Interesting.
That mainly builds warehouses purchased a second-hand wind turbine last year.
First of all, we looked into a new one because that's the logical way to go, I think. However, quickly became clear that a new turbine would be too expensive for a small one to be installed on that site and not to be profitable anymore.
Because they were only after one small turbine, the production costs would have been pretty high, so they opted for a cheaper, used one.
I think it's a 40% cheaper than a new one. However, you have to take into account that even though the turbine is refurbished, you have a larger risk on it breaking down or it having a malfunction.
A report published by the Welsh government calculated a refurb turbines project offers almost 19% of return on investment, and comparable project with a new turbine only 8%.
Oi, what a long
See?
day. Vesta
Economics there makes a lot of sense.
actually says that refurbished or second-hand parts can save up to 60% in emissions
What's up, Roche?
to new ones. That's a lot.
But for that to happen, these turbines first need to travel more than 500 kilometers, all the way to Hazeler in the Netherlands, to Business in Wind's brand new workshop. They completely disassemble each component and check them thoroughly, as some problems only come to light when you take things apart.
So, which parts on these turbines usually experience the most wear and tear?
It's probably a very obvious answer, but the rotating parts suffer most wear and tear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's your usual suspects.
One of those components is the hub. It's the part that holds the blades that weigh several tons already. But then you also have the wind pushing against it. In really windy conditions, the blade will almost curve back to the tower. So the bolts and bearings have to withstand a lot of pressure and often need replacing. Depending on the condition of the turbine and availability of spare parts, the technicians need 1 or 2 months to overhaul it. It's not only rotating parts that need to be replaced, but also entire electrical components, contacts and wires need to be double checked. This turbine is—
That's a lot of work.
It's getting an upgrade because wind turbine tech has improved in 13 years.
This turbine will get a bigger rotor, so the output is increased because of the rotor diameter is increased. And also it will be fitted with a new control system, which will be able to send the power more efficiently into the grid.
A bigger rotor
Interesting.
can generate
Yeah.
more energy with the turbine overall, because you can simply catch more wind. And some of the old parts that are taken out of the turbine could become valuable assets.
Should I wait for RAM and either PC part to drop before I start building a PC? Depends on your priority. If it's more of a want than a need, then I would hold off right now.
Need spare parts in order to keep running.
But if you need it, I mean,
Analyst for Wood Mackenzie.
do what you gotta do.
Life Solutions.
I think on a component by component.
Like, I'm holding off on upgrading my main workstation because I can't justify dropping more money on the memory than the CPU.
Wind spare part storage sites. Wood Mackenzie estimates that by 2034, more than 14,000 gearboxes could be—
Isn't nuclear energy cleaner?
Just the gearboxes.
So all this
Nuclear energy isn't cleaner compared to wind and solar, but it's by far one of the cleanest solutions overall, especially when we compare it to conventional methods such as, you know, coal, gas, you know, things like that. But like I was saying, you know, earlier, you're going to need a mix of renewable energy sources because you're going to want to make sure, like, let's say there's an issue with nuclear or whatever, they have to turn down the plant, that you can kick over to solar or wind. And then wind is maybe not always blowing, so you're going to want to have solar, but the sun may not always be shining to maximum efficiency, like say it's winter. So then you're going to be looking at maybe geothermal. We're going to need a lot of different pieces to go and have a proper energy system that's completely renewable. And then energy storage, as well as ways to decentralize all of that so that we can have grids where it's not as affected if, you know, we have these disruptions.
Around me here is the gold mine of second-hand wind turbines.
As of 2022, already 20% of Europe's wind turbines had exceeded their average operational lifespan. But because overall costs for new wind projects increased by up to 35% in recent years, there's a big incentive to have turbines run for longer periods of time.
So we're talking about...
I didn't say it's not clean, I just said that, you know, you're still going to need a mix.
We're looking at Europe, and then other parts of Asia as well have a growing demand for refurbished turbines.
Which makes sense, as things like electricity grid connections and legal frameworks are already in place in these countries. But a couple of refurbishment companies that I talked to also mentioned that refurb turbines are going to markets like Eastern Europe or Africa that otherwise couldn't afford them. But of course, not everything is easy peasy when it comes to refurb turbines.
Anyone who has ever bought something secondhand knows what the downsides are. It might break earlier than you expect it to, and a little bit like an old-timer car, it needs to be serviced more often than a brand new one.
So maintenance costs increase. By how much exactly is difficult to say. It's specific to each turbine, their wear and tear status, and with how much wind they need to deal with in their new location they are set up in.
I think it will be triple the amount of the maintenance contract of a new one. But that gives you the guarantee on not bumping into excessive breakdown costs, but they guarantee that the turbine will be at full disposability for 97% for 20 years with the buy of the second-hand turbine and the contract for 20 years.
Those are both really good numbers.
Yeah, that's a really good breakdown.
Usually only gives out warranties of 1 year on refurb parts. I can't say how realistic 20 more years are. Tim mentioned 10 to 15 years, but it gives you an idea of how long second-hand turbines could be running for. An earlier technical failure might render refurbishment projects uneconomical.
It's a great way to extend the lifetime of a wind turbine, and that's good because there are hard to recycle parts, like the blades, for example. But to be honest, I expected longer warranty times on the refurb parts. 1 year is not a lot.
Yeah.
That's on top of all the other challenges that come with any wind project. But for many companies, the extra uncertainty that comes with second-hand is still worth it.
Did you even have the faintest idea that second-hand wind turbines exist? And when are you getting yours? Let me know in the comments, and head to dw.com for more information on this topic. See ya!
Huh, that was interesting. Alright, next one. Why thorium is about to change the world. So touching on nuclear energy, this is Undecided with Matt Farrell. But yeah, this will be interesting, because thorium, I haven't talked about it too much, but thorium is like one of those, like, I've been intrigued by thorium energy for many years, and been an advocate of us doing more with it. So yeah, let's see what they have here.
Are like the solid-state batteries of nuclear power, vastly superior, yet forever on the horizon. But now a Danish company is closer than ever to turning them into a reality. Its reactors are designed to deliver on thorium's decades-old promise, a self-sustaining chain reaction that breeds fresh fuel, making energy cheaper and more abundant than ever. These aren't just thorium reactors. They're small modular reactors designed to function as shipping container-sized self-maintaining batteries that operate reliably for years.
Oh, damn.
So how is this company tackling such an ambitious engineering challenge? When might commercial thorium reactors finally arrive? And is thorium the missing piece of the clean energy puzzle? I'm Matt Farrell. Welcome to Undecided. This video is brought to you by Surfshark. In the 1950s and 60s, the Atomic Energy Commission sought to transform nuclear energy from a source of fear into a source of energy too cheap to meter. Under Director Alvin Weinberg, scientists at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee developed a radically different type of reactor and fuel cycle, one that promised to breed more fuel than it burned, potentially powering civilization for thousands of years. Their design, a molten salt reactor running on fuel bred from thorium, ran successfully for 15,000 hours from 1965 to 1969, producing a steady 8 megawatts of heat.
Ooh, wow.
So why don't we have this limitless thorium energy today?
Government!
The project was defunded after the Atomic Energy Commission shifted its research focus to a different kind of breeder reactor, which too was plagued by technical challenges until its own cancellation. As for Weinberg, he was fired for continuing to champion thorium. He wrote wistfully in his memoir, "I hope that in a second nuclear era, the molten salt technology will be resurrected."
So wait, you had a nuclear expert get fired for advocating what they thought was a better technology, and lo and behold, a lot of people may be coming around to realize that? Like, if I'm not mistaken, when I was researching thorium a while ago, one of the advantages of it is that you can use waste from other nuclear processes as fuel. I can see you having a thorium reactor in the future, and you could probably spearhead it into politics.
Weinberg's wish might just come true thanks to a Danish company. No, not that kind with icing and almonds, although that's a pretty sweet solution for a different kind of energy slump. Copenhagen is a startup out of Denmark reviving Weinberg's hopes for a so-called breeder reactor.
Wow.
That creates more fissile fuel than it burns. And they're one of the handful of companies answering the call for cheaper nuclear power with small modular reactors. And when I say small, I mean Copenhagen Atomic's reactor is designed to fit inside of a standard 40-foot shipping-sized container. And by modular, I mean they aim to mass produce one reactor per day on an assembly line.
Oh, damn!
Many is needed to a plant site to hit the desired power output.
Just give me one. Give me one. I want one of those in my new house, and I'll have enough fuel for my grandchildren and their grandchildren. Okay, maybe not that long, but still.
Shrinking nuclear reactors like this could make them cheaper to build and easier to scale with rising energy demand. And because they're building the same design over and over, they can work out the kinks in the manufacturing process, which means delivering reactors at a predictable cost, instead of the massive overruns that have plagued large, custom-built nuclear power plants. I'm going to let CEO and co-founder Thomas Jan Peterson explain how they're fitting nuclear reactors into a box. But first, a refresher on nuclear chain reactions. You probably know uranium as the go-to fuel in conventional reactors.
Yeah, split your atom, collect the energy, yada, yada, yada.
Splits, releasing a huge amount of energy and a few neutrons that go on to split more uranium-235. If there's enough fuel and moderator like water to slow these neutrons down, the chain reaction sustains itself, producing heat to make steam, then that steam spins a turbine to generate electricity. The Nuclear Energy Agency estimated that worldwide uranium reserves will only power us for another 200 years at current consumption rates.
Wow, I actually did not know that. Like, uranium, there's only enough for 200 years. Now, to give you an idea, we maybe only have enough fossil fuels to power us about the same amount of time, if I'm not mistaken.
Recent estimates emphasize the importance of...
What do I think with NVIDIA coming up with their CPUs? It's just another ARM CPU. I'll be going, ooh, ah, wonderful, amazing, when they come with a RISC-V CPU. Like, these guys. These are RISC-V. Oh, look, another ARM CPU. How original!
New exploration
1980s tech.
That will be necessary to expand its usage into the future. As I shared in a recent episode of the revival of old nuclear power plants to power data centers, nuclear energy is set to expand worldwide as we reach for low-emission solutions to today's booming energy demands. However, there's a solution to uranium scarcity, and that's another element, thorium. It's not only 3 to 4 times more common in Earth's crust, because only 0.7% of natural uranium is the chain reaction forming 235 variety. Thorium is actually nearly 500 times more abundant than the uranium that we rely on.
Damn!
Now, thorium can't form chain reactions like uranium-235, but if thorium is seeded with a little uranium-235 or plutonium-239, which are both fissile materials that release neutrons when they split, then thorium-232 can absorb a neutron and become thorium-233, which beta decays into protactinium-233 and then into uranium-233. And this is the clever bit, because uranium-233 is fissile, it splits and releases neutrons that sustain a chain reaction.
Oh!
Chain reacting uranium-235 in an old...
Didn't know about that part.
Eats up more fuel.
Like I said, I only got the surface level understanding of it. I failed at chemistry.
How?
And those 2.35 neutrons gives you a little bit more, because you need one of those neutrons to split the next uranium atom in the chain reaction. and you need another atom or another neutron to upgrade your thorium to uranium, but then you have this 0.35 extra. So you can generate a little bit more fuel than you consume all the time.
So instead of burning up an ever-dwindling supply of nuclear fuel, or even burning up as much fuel as it makes, the thorium fuel cycle lets us breed more nuclear fuel than it consumes. Once optimized, each reactor could generate enough fuel to start another every 10 to 20 years. And those new reactors could do the same. That means doubling nuclear capacity every few decades without burning through the world's uranium reserves.
If you really want to have 10 or 20 or 100 times more energy on this planet, then we need what is called breeder reactors.
This is the thorium dream and Copenhagen Atomic's ultimate goal, to build a breeder reactor. But to encourage a fundamentally different reaction, they need a fundamentally different reactor, the molten salt reactor, or MSR. This is where things get more interesting and safer. Molten salt reactors using thorium aren't just efficient, they're designed to...
That's sort of like it could challenge AMD and Intel.
Take a quick moment to talk about protecting your digital life too. I was just on a trip to a geothermal conference, and between the conference Wi-Fi...
Okay, Wi-Fi, okay, VPN advertising. We've seen tons of VPN ads. We're just gonna skip along. You've all been sold the same spiel. Okay.
Supporting the channel. All right, back to the molten salt magic. Unlike traditional reactors powered by...
No hate to the creator, it's just...
MSRs are powered by...
We get VPN ads like several times a stream.
Because the fuel is liquid, waste products from nuclear fission can be extracted with the reactor still running. This continuous cleanup keeps the thorium to uranium reaction humming along by preserving neutrons for fuel production instead of letting them get soaked up by the waste. Liquid fuel salt acts as a coolant too, circulating out and back into the reactor core to deliver heat for the power generation. In Copenhagen Atomic's layered onion core MSR, these hot salts are flanked by heavy water that slows down the neutrons so they can be better absorbed by thorium in the salt. And the outer layer of the onion will be a breeding blanket, where additional thorium salts will absorb neutrons produced by the chain reaction within the reactor core, breeding uranium-233. In the final design, this uranium will be transferred from the blanket to the molten salt fuel in the core.
When you have liquids, you can actually separate these things out. And it's a mix of chemistry and electrochemistry to do that, but it's a completely autonomous system that runs...
So it requires heavy water as well.
Another massive advantage of MSRs is that unlike traditional water-cooled reactors that operate under high pressure to keep the water from boiling, molten salt reactors run at atmospheric pressure. That means no risk of high-pressure steam explosions and sudden loss of coolant or rapid overheating if a breach occurs. The molten salt simply cools and solidifies, trapping radioactive...
Any brand laptops you recommend? Asking for a friend. If you're just looking at, you know, using an everyday laptop that's Windows or whatever, Lenovo's my go-to. ThinkPads, those are my go-to. Dell is my second choice for those, but if you're looking for like Linux laptops, System 76 is a good company. I have a Tuxedo computer as my primary, System 76 as my secondary for my Parrot OS. There's also Nova Custom, but like Tuxedo, I've really been liking their stuff lately. I like it for my primary laptop, but yeah, Lenovo, Dell, and then if you're looking specifically for Linux, check out Tuxedo Computers and System 76.
Copenhagen Atomics even include frozen plugs at the bottom of the reactor vessel. If the system overheats, the plug melts, and the molten salt drains by gravity into a...
Really? Interesting.
Passively shutting down the reaction and preventing a meltdown.
And that's called walk-away safety. That means that if all the electricity is gone, if all the people run away, it's still safe. It's safe by itself because it has passive decay heat removal.
But while thorium reactors are walk-away safe, they're not exactly walk-up safe. A small amount of uranium-232 forms during the production of uranium-233 and gives off intense gamma rays powerful enough to pass through centimeters of lead.
Oh, really?
Uranium-233, which could otherwise be an ideal bomb material, a logistical nightmare to steal or weaponize. However, it also means that Copenhagen Atomics will have to go to great lengths to keep that radiation contained. The plan is to avoid sending humans anywhere near the reactor containers. Each unit will be sealed in a steel box at about a half a meter or 20 inches thick that will weigh in at 1,000 tons.
Jeez.
40-ton sections and be welded together on site. Copenhagen Atomics will house 25 reactors in a single building. Remotely operated cranes and forklifts will handle the heavy lifting, keeping the process as hands-off as possible in order to cut down radiation exposure and red tape all in one go. While gamma radiation makes thorium reactors trickier to handle, nuclear waste from thorium reactors is actually much easier to manage. That's because fission products from traditional uranium-235 reactors includes plutonium and other elements that stay dangerously radioactive for tens of thousands of years. The waste from uranium-233 bred from thorium, on the other hand, decays much faster. It's kind of like choosing paper or plastic at the checkout lane, because instead of needing to store spent uranium fuel underground for tens of thousands of years, or even 100,000 years, thorium reactors' waste can often be safely stored above ground for just a few hundred years. And it gets even better. The bit of fissile material that's needed to start the thorium chain reaction can come from the waste of a traditional uranium reactor.
Yeah, this is what we talked about a little earlier.
Small amounts of legacy nuclear waste. Copenhagen Atomics plans to build this into their design, making their thorium reactor not just a fuel breeder, but a waste burner.
That'd be great.
How and when will Copenhagen Atomics commercialize the
Is USA looking into thorium reactors? Notice to China and Europe. Some places in Europe have actually been looking into it, but the problem is the United States government themselves, from my knowledge, has not really invested too much into it, which I think is a real issue, because I do see it as a national defense prerogative. Because look, the more we can move away from fossil fuels, the more the USA could become energy independent. That is more strategically better overall on multiple fronts. One, the United States would not have to, cater to crazy or inhumane or unethical or whatever regimes that happen to be resource rich. Number two, when wars or stuff happen to break out, as we're seeing right now with the Iran war, the population would not be as affected by a fluctuation nearly as much. If we actually were to move more towards thorium-based reactors, and then we're able to actually boost the energy grid overall with a combination of other renewable resources and everything, then we could actually look at moving completely to an electrified energy grid. And that would allow us to then comfortably transition into electrical vehicles. And right now, charging tech has been, growing and improving immensely, that now we're getting to the points where charging time for EVs is similar to how long it would take you to stop at a gas station to refuel your car. So I think long term, it's one of those things we have to take. But the problem is, you have the short-term view of a lot of politicians that are bending over backwards and taking it up the butt from Enron, Exxon, all the oil companies out there, because they're the big political donors in a lot of these different situations. So that's the problem there. Politically, it's damaging for them. But economically and strategically overall for the United States, and I'd say for many other countries, it is the best position to take. But, of course, greed ruins everything.
And much more than just new fuel. They also need pumps, pipes, and control systems that can survive a constant bath of corrosive salt as hot as lava. But it's not just the heat or corrosion. Is the neutron bombardment from the core that slowly wears down materials at an atomic level. And because the core also blasts out intense gamma radiation, these systems can't be serviced once the reactor is up and running. They have to work flawlessly for years, more like a sealed battery pack than a conventional machine. Here's how Copenhagen Atomics engineers are rising to the challenge. They've developed a molten salt pump that they say can run literally red hot, circulating a molten cocktail of
interesting
sodium, and potassium that's also known as Flinac. I think that's how you say it. Flinac? Now, this salt mix exits the core
Flinac. Sounds fun to say. Flinac.
Fahrenheit, and loops back in at around 600 degrees Celsius or 1100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
To avoid the wear and tear that dooms traditional pumps, this pump levitates its rotating parts on magnetic bearings, keeping the system humming for years. In preparation for going nuclear...
And we've talked about how magnetically levitating parts actually can make an energy system not only more efficient because there's no friction on that stuff, but also, like they're saying, more mechanically sound in terms of reliability.
Here, the company is running molten flinac through dedicated test loops to shake out the problems and fine-tune the performance of the pump, the sensors, heat exchangers, and even the custom steel alloy that's used inside the reactor. The steel can endure corrosive salts and neutron bombardment for at least 5 years, after which the reactor module is shut down and swapped out for a fresh one. That's right, just 5 years. In traditional solid fuel reactors, corrosion and radiation mostly wear down the fuel rods and their cladding, which are components designed to be swapped out during routine refueling. But in molten salt reactors, the fuel is dissolved into the circulating salt, which flows through nearly every part of the system. That means the entire reactor module, core, pumps, and pipes, takes the hit. So instead of fuel rods, you eventually have to replace the whole unit. Ironically, the fuel and water moderator get saved.
And then the
Interesting.
And the heavy water, that can be reused. So the fuel zone and the heavy water is just the same, being used over and over and over again. And that's also the expensive part.
Even with frequent reactor swaps, Copenhagen Atomics still sees a path to low-cost power, and Peterson is quick to note the upside.
But the great thing about that is that every 5 years you are able
Another your opinion on a video if you have time this stream.
they run for
This might be the last long video. We got some short videos after this, but we do have a channel inside the Discord for review on stream where you can put videos in and I can see about getting around to it.
improving the efficiency of the system.
The company's next step is trucking a full-scale prototype reactor down to the Paul Scherrer Institute in Switzerland. That's the country's premier research campus for nuclear energy, with both a hot lab to handle radiation and an administration to handle the regulation.
Yeah, you're welcome, dead leg.
It will mark the first time a nuclear chain reaction kicks off inside of one of Copenhagen Atomic's reactors, and the first time a thorium reactor is tested in Europe. The reactor will be powered by enriched uranium in the core and contain thorium in the surrounding breeding.
This is exciting.
It is slated for 2026 and will run for up to 30 days at just 1% of the reactor's expected power output.
Wow!
Critically, enough to validate computer models.
So that's happening this year? Can somebody like keep track on this so that we don't forget about it? Because I'm going to be curious about the success of this project over here. 1%, I'm curious to see what the total output of it is and what the overall results of this are.
Over the following 4 years in partnership with PSI, Peterson's team plans to begin transferring uranium's 233 bread in the blanket into the core, an essential step towards a self-sustaining reactor that only needs refueling every 3 to 5 years. That's far less often than in traditional reactors, which are refueled every 1.5 to 2 years. The team will also optimize systems to clean fission products out of the fuel salt, with the reactor still running, keeping the chain reaction chugging along at a steady clip. For now, their biggest holdup isn't technology, it's regulation. They've got to scale a Matterhorn of paperwork before testing can begin in Switzerland. The PSI is on board, but there's no ski lift through the nuclear approval, and the pass isn't cheap.
I mean, one of the most expensive things are these licenses and approvals. I assume that...
It's always government that's the biggest problem to innovation.
Then the price of all this licensing and approval will also come down.
While Copenhagen Atomics gears up, China appears to have crossed the starting line. In October 2024, a state-sponsored molten salt reactor ran at full power for 10 days with thorium and uranium in its fuel mix. It even bred protactinium-233, a clear sign that nuclear breeding was underway. In April 2025, Chinese researchers announced they topped their reactor up with fresh fuel without first shutting down. Another milestone on the road to continuous operation. But no one has claimed the prize just yet. Neither China nor Copenhagen Atomics have demonstrated a true breeder reactor that produces more fissile fuel than it consumes. Copenhagen Atomics believes hitting that milestone, along with producing reactors at factory scale, could drive energy costs as low as $20 to $40 per megawatt hour.
Wow!
Today's average for nuclear energy. To hit that price point, the company is reimagining not just the reactor, but the entire business model.
I was going to say, that's pretty cheap.
It won't sell its reactors. Instead, it will build, site, operate, and eventually decommission each reactor itself, all without taxpayer funding. In exchange for taking the heat on nuclear installation, its clients will literally take the heat the reactors produce, for use directly in industrial applications or for the conversion into electricity. By taking full responsibility for everything from site evaluation to nuclear waste management, Copenhagen Atomics could make nuclear power viable even in countries that have never had nuclear power plants. Indonesia is one example, and that also happens to be the company's first customer.
Wow.
They use the energy from the thorium reactions to produce hydrogen and ammonia.
Interesting.
Isn't always the answer, and nuclear reactors provide something solar and wind can't. Ultra-low emissions heat for everything from producing ammonia and smelting aluminum to drying paper. And thanks to thorium...
Wow, I never even considered that.
Radioactive waste may soon go from a 100,000-year curse to a 300-year chore. Copenhagen Atomics expects to go commercial within a decade, with the biggest breakthrough, which is a self-sustaining breeding reactor fueled only by cheap and abundant thorium. That's a milestone with an uncertain timeline. But it's also a technology our planet can't hardly wait for, because energy unlocks solutions and thorium might just give us the key. But what do you think? Is it still worth the pursuit? Is this technology in the bag, or is it more of a roadmap than a reactor? Jump in the comments and let me know. And be sure to listen to my follow-up podcast, Still to be Determined. We'll keep this conversation going. Thanks as always to my patrons for your continued support and helping to keep the channel going.
I thought I was subscribed to him. I keep seeing his videos, but yeah, I should subscribe. That was really good. Alright, so next thing we have a few more shorts and all that, but first, just shared this. Bill C-22... So it looks like Canada's. The Lawful Access Act, dangerous backdoor surveillance risks remain. So what is this? A tale of two bills. Lawful access returns with changes to warrantless access, but dangerous backdoor surveillance risks remain. This sounds like the same old problem of the idea of a backdoor for one is a backdoor for all, and the misguided and fallacious idea that you can only have a backdoor for the good guys. And we saw from Salt Typhoon a backdoor into the warrant systems in telecommunications was exploited to backdoor telecommunications all across the USA, as an example. So, yeah. Lawful access never dies, however, okay. Yeah. Let's use applications for network providers that, as they envision providing law enforcement with direct access to provider networks to test capabilities for data access and interception. The bill introduces a new term, electronic service provider, that is presumably designed to extend beyond telecom and internet providers by scoping in internet platforms, Google, Meta, etc. Those international services are now key players in electronic communications. Yeah, this is no good over here. So we're definitely gonna have to keep an eye on that over there. I need to work on getting AI into reading my different bills and everything. That'll happen eventually as I build my bots out more and more to be more sophisticated. Because eventually what I'm gonna have them do is, so we already have Penguin Overlord going and telling you all the bills and stuff that are happening, but I want to do further analysis and the implications of these different bills with my AI that I'll have set up, but that's going to require like some DGX sparks and stuff like that, where we can potentially have it go through the language and everything. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Alright, so we got some shorts over here. Vampire dropped them into the actual Discord. OpenClaw? No, I'm not using OpenClaw. I'm doing it directly through, I have Olama set up on one of my boxes, and basically it's doing direct queries to that. Now, I'm gonna have to modify it, because once I start getting DGX sparks, I'm going to be using VLLM for those setups, because VLLM is more capable as it scales. So, yeah, that's definitely going to have to be something that we're going to look into. But, no, you don't need OpenClaw for this. I was doing this before OpenClaw even was a thing. You can go look in my GitHub. I actually have Penguin Overlord, Stream Demon, and BoonTube Demon are all my projects that are using AI, along with Typo Sniper eventually soon too. But those projects were using AI before OpenClaw was even around. And BoonTube Demon is my YouTube video poster that works to Discord, Matrix, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. Stream Demon is my Twitch, Kick, and YouTube live poster to, again, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Discord, and Matrix. And then Penguin Overlord is the moderation bot that I've been building here and there, right now mainly for Discord, and will soon have capabilities for Matrix as well. What 3D printers I got? Right now, I just got two Prusa Mark 3S's. They're a little bit old, but they're still capable. I gotta pull the clog out of one and do some servicing on both of them, but they're there. They're reliable. All right, let's see.
There's a new phishing attack that's getting past email security filters because the links are disguised as part of the internet's own address.
Oh, we saw this video already. The IPv6 ARPA thing. Okay.
Here's a quick reminder to whoever needs it. You're not beating a kangaroo in a fight.
We're gonna take
what the hell?
Years for that to happen. But look at this, you guys. Look how precious he is. And he hasn't even landed a single kick. by that kiss.
That just went from like.
Quick reminder to whoever needs it. You're not beating a kangaroo in a fight.
We're gonna take probably 1 or 2 more years for that to happen. But look at this, you guys. Look how precious he is. And he hasn't even landed a single kick yet.
That's just so funny to me. Oh, that is really good. Let's see. What's this video over here?
Glass is half full. Fucking hell, why is it empty? Water.
What the fuck?
This is a glass of water.
What the hell? What the hell?
Here with me is a glass of dihydrogen monoxide. And today, we will be turning it into pee.
Is Nile red?
Glass.
Are these guys basically like Nerd Rage? Do y'all remember Nerd Rage? The chemistry YouTuber I showed that like was the OG for like making dangerous substances on. Okay, yeah, they're like Nerd Rage. Okay.
Monoxide. And today, we will be turning it into wine. Fuck yeah, it's a glass of who gives a shit. I only consume one thing and one thing only. Cocaine.
Electro boom, yeah. What's this? Alright, so this is the CG deck that Han shared. An open source portable x86 mini computer powered by an Intel 150 CPU with 8-hour battery life. Coming in 8GB and 16GB RAM options, with optional PCIe 2280, NVMe, and 4G LTE module support. Okay, that's going to be a really fun cyber deck. How much is that going to run? Of course, I would get it with Linux. That goes without saying. Powered by 3 18650 lithium batteries with safe power management and onboard USB-C charging. Okay. You can get it in a few different colors. You can get a few different shells. So you can probably like 3D print some stuff. Open hardware and open software. So there's a GitHub. Oh. So they're looking at an April release. So right now they just have a render, it looks like. I don't know if they have More stuff in here. Okay, so they just have a placeholder, GitHub, more or less. 10,500 milliamp hours. Not bad. Okay. So I'm curious, if I hit the join the waitlist button, what happens? So 1 second. Okay, it just literally is like, put your name and email in. Okay. I'd be interested in looking at a device like that. Don't know if I would be willing to spend the money right now. I've got so many other things. I still have to update my mini laptop with the hardware that I need. Here we have... This is a relatively old article from June 17, 2025, Honda shared. Honda conducts successful launch and landing test of experimental reusable rocket. So Tesla's not the only one in town with that. Oh, I just did that. I didn't know Honda made rockets. In other news, Graphene OS refuses to comply with new age verification laws for operating systems. Group says it will never require personal information. So that's good to know. But, here's the problem. Motorola recently announced that they're going to be partnering with them, right? If they are releasing devices that happen to have Graphene OS pre-installed, not saying that they are guaranteed to do that, they've basically said that there will be compatibility, that could put the Motorola thing in jeopardy. But yeah. Still good on Graphene OS. U.S. federal prosecutors successfully... Okay. Yeah, Motorola... Oh, there we go. Motorola announced a long-term partnership at MWC on March 2nd to bring the hardened OS to future Motorola hardware, ending Graphene OS's long-standing exclusivity to Google Pixel devices. A Graphene OS-powered Motorola phone is expected in 2027. If Motorola sells devices with Graphene OS pre-installed, these devices would need to comply with local regulations in every market where they ship, or Motorola may need to restrict sales geographically. That was kind of where I was going at with this. You know, I wouldn't be opposed to them restricting it geographically if I can just order the device, and or even if they just allow you to buy the device in another operating system and then tell you, hey, you can go install it this way. But yeah. But yeah, that's pretty cool. But with that note, it's getting a little bit late. I do have work tomorrow, so I am going to call it a night right here, folks. Make sure, if you haven't already, to follow me on all of the socials, join the Discord and the Matrix servers. The links are in the bio for the Instagram, the Blue Sky, the Mastodon, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitch, the Kick, all the platforms, really, that I'm on. Including GitHub and everything. And, of course, join the Discord. Join the Matrix. We have a great community on both of those. Matrix is like the decentralized kind of Discord equivalent out there. I run my own Matrix server, so you're more than welcome to join that. But thank you all for joining. The next official stream will be tomorrow, and then Tuesday I'm going to try to stream again, so that way, I can make up for the stream that'll be missing on Wednesday. And then I'm going to try to do a gaming on Linux stream once a week again, get back into that. That'll probably be Sundays, and Sundays will probably have longer streams, so that way we can do more gaming on Linux. I'll have to figure out what I want to play. because I definitely want to play a few things. I want to play some classics like Elder Scrolls Morrowind and Oblivion and things like that. But there's like, you know, Red Dead Redemption. There's still Cyberpunk that I need to finish up. There's a lot of games in my library I still need to finish. Like, hell, I have Elden Ring and I still haven't even fired that game up. So we'll figure it out. But anyway, with that said, hopefully Hypixel or Minecraft, right? Terraria. Maybe. We'll see. But anyway, with that being said, I love you all. Stay safe. Happy hacking. Stick around for the raid if you're over on Twitch. But otherwise, I should see you all tomorrow. And I'll see you in the Discord and the Matrix and all those other platforms. Love you all. Stay safe. Happy hacking.